What's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Sunday Night Live. Uh, Steve, I think your internet's being frizzy again before somebody calls you out on it.
Why is that?
You just went all Mario Brothers for a second there.
Well,
Might want to make sure you have it swap networks. But yeah, other than that, guys, it has been busy playing catch up since I got back from my trip this week, and I'm tired. So y'all be easy on me today. What have you had going on? Have you made any adventures into the Twin Cities lately?
no, I stayed home this week as much as I could. But we're ramping up for fall semester, so work's getting busy, and that'll be a bit distracting for the next few weeks because we actually go off summer hours. This is our last short Friday this past week, so got a couple more long days because our week actually starts on Wednesday, which is annoying. But yeah, so couple chaotic 2-3 chaotic weeks, get into September, and hopefully things will smooth out. Temperatures will drop a bit, get back into a groove. But no, I did get some stuff done this week, not as quickly as I thought. Was waiting for some information back on OhmTech, but did get that video launched this week on the Polar Light.
Yeah.
I know I talked a little bit about last week, but nice little budget desktop CO2 laser, 55 watt. Doesn't have, it's not a fancy smart laser like a lot of people are bringing out. It's very Lightburn compatible with kind of your key features you need. And I think it's at $1,799 without Lightburn or $2,000 with Lightburn. So it's a pretty decent deal with some caveats. Yeah, people want to check out a budget line CO2. Doesn't take up a lot of space and did pretty well. I had a couple of things I would have liked to seen. The water chiller, it's a radiator, but it's got the system built in, which is nice on one hand, but it's only gonna cool it down as much as it can with the small radiator inside the case. And then the air assist is also built in, which it is controllable through Lightburn, as opposed to like the stock one on a few of them. Like even the OhmTech Maker, that was just, it basically turns on with the laser. But it's not variable. And there were a couple times I would have liked to maybe give it more or less air. And then the other thing too is I'm not 100% sure how easy it would be to bypass either of those. So, but all that being said, I mean, it actually performed pretty well on my cut tests. Did some quality engravings. So I think for a budget laser, to kind of get started with, it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's not too bad. Yeah, Rich, the ceramic block and the high voltage line, it's bad to see on any laser, but I've seen it on a number of them. And so they should do better quality control, but it's kind of something you should check on. If you're hearing any weird like static or snapping or sparking, stop it right away. Try to investigate that tube and get that insulation on there. It's coupled on this one in that it's on the gantry and they have kind of that aluminum shroud that's not a whole lot bigger than the tube. So one of the suggestions from support, which they did get back to me pretty quickly, and they basically confirmed that I should do what I asked them if they wanted me to do it. They said, try to move it away from the frame as much as possible. I'm like, well, it's in a metal tube. I can't.
Yeah, because it's got the shroud. It's kind of like my Polar Plus, isn't it? Where It's got the shroud on the gantry that hides it. Yeah, there's not much moving that around.
But yeah, I mean, for not spending $3,000-$4,000 on a bunch of smart features that may or may not work with their software, and the laser may or may not play nice with Lightburn, I'm pretty happy with this one as kind of a benchtop CO2 with, it's got. And their autofocus does work. It's not like the Monport where you got to like manually crank it up and the plunger jumps up. It does touch off the surface. So we'll see. I'm gonna put some work through it on it out here, and we'll run some more things through it. Maybe get some more project videos out on it, and see maybe 50, 100 hours of use down the road. If I find anything else, good, bad, or otherwise, we'll try to follow up with that. But yeah, I mean, check it out. Overall, I think it's a decent option for a sub $2,000 CO2.
Yeah, it's got to be a step up from the old K40s we all used to play around with.
Definitely, yeah.
even with a little bit of insulating and stuff, I think it's still a better deal than the K40s. Which I haven't had one of the recent ones, but I know my experience with the old K40 was definitely I don't know, bare bones at best. And well, this week, like I said, this past week during the week, I was out of town. I was in Orange Beach. We had a conference for work, so I was down there all week. Didn't get back here until was it Thursday night? I got back here, I think it was, but didn't get a whole lot done Thursday night. Friday, I did manage to get some stuff done, some rearranging here in the shop. I've been trying to make room for things because I'm out of room as it is. I got stuff that needs to be got out of here. And for those of you that haven't noticed it, those big 6 foot tall boxes back there, it's actually a laser. And I'm probably going to regret agreeing to take it, but curiosity got me. I wanted to see it. And so I will be putting it together here in the next, I don't know, week or so. Somehow, even though I got tracking on all 4 boxes, only 2 of the boxes showed up. The other 2 are somewhere in transit, supposedly. But I had to peek. I had to open the boxes to see if the parts that are in the box are actually the length of the box. And Klein was over here yesterday, so we cut the tape off and looked, and it is in fact the side rails on it are like 60 something inches long. So it's gonna be bigger than the Shapoco when I get it put together. And I didn't get the 8 foot one. I told him I did not have room for that. I got the 4 foot by 4 foot version. And it's still gonna be massive. I don't know where I'm gonna put it yet, except the only thing I've came up with so far is that I got all my stove covers knocked out today. As you can see, I gotta stain them and put the rest of the crap on them. But I'm gonna take and move the radial arm saw, drop the router down inside the table, take the fence off of the table saw because that's actually flat with the top. So and then I got a piece of plywood sitting over there against the wall. I'm going to make myself a little makeshift table right there, big enough to hold it for temporarily. Hopefully I won't need my chop saw. If I do, I can just set it up over here on my utility table. But that's the plan. That's where we're at with that. And I'm hoping get it put together. I can come up with something different. I've considered doing like a little Murphy bed type setup with it somewhere, maybe on a roll around cart. But we'll see how that goes. But it is a beast of a machine as far as the size goes. I hope I don't live to regret the decision to take it, but it was curious. 120 watt diode, water cooled. I wanted to see what it looked like. So
yeah, well,
that's where we're at.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Curiosity on some of those things, but yeah, I am curious the market for that size of a diode laser.
Yeah, I have a use for it if I can figure out how to keep it in the shop. I have a use for it with my stuff that I make, but that's a lot of real estate.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
So
if those boxes don't show up, it's going to be very uneventful.
So there's another thing I can share. It wasn't so much from this week, but something I did recently, but my friend has kind of done his part on it. And so about 20 years ago up here in the St. Paul area, Snoopy and whatnot, there were a bunch of Peanuts related statues put up around the city. And so they've been out there for a while and they've taken some beatings over time. And so a friend of mine had actually worked with an artist on it, but she has since passed away. And the company that sponsored this one reached out to him and said, hey, do you know someone or somehow that we could get this restored? And so he's been working on it. And this is what it looks like now that he's done a lot of the restoration on it. But there were some placards talking about each one with some nomenclature and such. And this is kind of the condition it was in after 20 years of outside here in Minnesota. And so after watching my video on the Star Trek light boxes where I printed on the inside of the acrylic with the UV printer, he asked if I thought that might be something that I could do for this. And so he worked up the graphics and sent me some acrylic that he thought would work. And I was able to print those out for him. And so it's printed on the backside so that it's protected through the acrylic. And he was able to attach those to the base of this. So kind of a cool thing that he's been working on. And it's almost done and ready to be put back. It's actually going to be stored inside the store now. So I had just a small part in it, but it was kind of cool to help restore something that's been out there for a while. And I might have to see if I can go up and check it out in person one of these days. But it's a unique case use for some of these tools.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, somebody's asking what was this here? I thought I saw a couple comments, questions. News fans asking, will we be reviewing the new Fox Alien 1.5 kW spindle and VFD? I haven't heard anything about it, so I have no idea.
James Dean did his video on it. I don't know. Possibly. I'm still working on getting. I need to finish clearing out space so I can set up the extended rails on mine and get that going. I mean, it looks interesting. If you want a kind of a plug and play, ready to go, you are paying a little bit extra for all like the kind of pre-made cables and everything programmed right, but it's a nice way to kind of have a drop-in spindle for those CNCs. So definitely would be something I'd like to add to it if I keep it around long term, which I think I might once I get those extended rails on it. But no, I haven't heard much from them in the past little while. So they work a lot with James Dean, and they'll probably see how that works and how much traffic they get from it, and then go from there.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna have any time in the near future. I've got several things in the works. Mark's asking, what are your thoughts on the new Snapmaker 4 head tool changer 3D printer coming out? I guess he's asking, is it worth jumping in on the Kickstarter? I've saw some, brief stuff about it. I've never had any experience with any of Snapmakers. I think you've said you dealt with them a little bit. Or who was that then? Somebody was saying they had dealt with like an older version that they had, but I'm gonna throw it out there. If it's like when you start talking about it's a 3D printer of CNC and all in one, I worry about machines that do too many things. I think can a CNC do laser work? Yeah, it can. Can a CNC or a 3D printer do CNC work? Sure, it could, but you start trying to do too many things with a machine, it tends to lean in towards one thing, messes the other thing up, and that's just it's hard to get one machine to do all those functions. And if you're really using it for like doing jobs and stuff, I mean, who wants to tie their CNC up with a 3D print job or a laser job or whatever the case may be?
So I mean, I know they've done their multi-device machines in the past, but this new one, it's kind of a new way of switching filament. So instead of purging, it has like 4 different hot ends that the head moves to and attaches, kind of like a tool changer on a CNC.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious how that, I mean, it must heat them all up and just have them set and ready to go. But the nice thing is you don't have to do the extra purging through the one head. So, I mean, it's supposed to be faster, but now you got extra moving parts and
A host of hot ends.
yeah. I mean, a cool idea. I hope it works. And the fact that you can swap colors quickly without, the whole purge is going to waste less material and speed things up. But anytime you're swapping things around that much, there's always that possibility for, error, or, it doesn't quite latch on right, or something gets off just a bit. So I'll be curious to see how it does long term. But I mean, it's one of those things that I'm excited to see if
So it's not a CNC.
pushes.
I misunderstood.
No, it's a multi. It's like a 3D printer with 4
I did see
ATC
that.
tool
Yeah.
chain. Like 4. You put load of. It's like having an ATC on a CNC. The bits
Yeah,
are ready to go. It
did.
just moves between them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because if the technology works and it's not too much more expensive, I gotta imagine there's added expense to those and such. But I mean, it could push other manufacturers to rethink how they're doing multicolor. So
Yeah,
but this is
I
one
was
of those
thinking.
things that, I mean, if you
They
got the
do
money
have one that does all 3, but that's not the one that they're coming out with.
no,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because it's showing here. It's got a 3D printer with a laser head and a CNC head, and yeah, like I said, I hadn't messed with that thing a whole lot or looked at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things. It's on Kickstarter, so you got to be mindful of that. It's going to take time to get it, and you may be a beta tester.
Yeah. Norbert, yes, you can. It's anodized aluminum is all it basically is, or coated aluminum. I don't know if it's necessarily anodized, but a Coca-Cola can is basically just aluminum with a coating on it. So you can do it just like you can the business cards and stuff. I use them to train people a lot of times on doing tumblers and so forth, because you can, like I said, you can do those, and then when you get through with it, just smash it and throw it in the recycle bin or whatever. So it's a good little medium to practice with and get all your settings dialed in. You can do them really nice if you have a UV, because it actually will turn the coating different colors instead of removing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra's asking a question. You want to answer it, because I know how you feel about bamboo.
So, all right. Well, acacia is an actual wood. Bamboo is a grass. Bamboo is going to be a little bit more inconsistent, but they both have similar traits to that, because a lot of acacia wood, you got a lot of heartwood, a lot of sapwood, and they have you're going to see variations when you hit both of those in the material. Given the choice between the two, I like acacia wood just because it's a little more forgiving, and it's going to be a little more, the burn sticks a little bit more into that wood rather than the grass. Bamboo, if it's just decorative, you can do a lot to make it look good and lock it in. But if you're using it, it will fade over time. It will fade with washing. So it's all about just kind of setting up expectations on that. And I feel like bamboo in larger pieces, it's just you're asking for more variation, that if you or your customer are not ready for that, or not okay with that, then it's probably going to be something you want to avoid.
See, that's been washed.
Yeah.
So
and it looks okay, but you notice, like on the spoon there, it's on a line between two different chunks, and so you're going to have those variations.
Yeah, these have all been washed, but yeah, you don't get a real brown engrave, and there's really not a lot you can do with it, because if you want to maintain food safeness, like you said, if this is something that's just decorative only, then yeah, you can mask it, you can put paint in it, stuff like that. If it's decorative, typically with these, people are going to use the backside of it and then just kind of hang it up, with this side showing. from what I've seen. But yeah, I do a lot of these things. I do several of these a week. And like I said, I just took the P2 and took it off the line and put my OMTech back up there and knocked these out today on it. Took them in the house and washed them earlier. So.
Cool. Sharon, I'm not sure. So I got my stuff set up later yesterday, and it seems kind of random when YouTube decides to actually push out the notification or not. I don't change anything week to week on that, so I'll have to double check to make sure something hasn't been universally turned off. But yeah, it's sometimes weird when pushing it out from this other software. You have to go back into the YouTube interface and sometimes double check settings. But I'll have to look. I know there are some weeks I get both Clax and mine, sometimes just his, sometimes just mine. It's kind of at the mercy of YouTube a little bit. but yeah, I'll check to see that there isn't something that's been turned off there.
Yeah, somebody was asking about the machine that I've got over there. All right, I've got half of it anyway. It says on their website it's 4'1" by 4'1" work area. They have the Ultra, I guess they're calling it, which is the 8 foot something by 4 foot. It's 8'4" by 4'1" is what they're saying. So they also have, and if I'd have known they had a little smaller one, I would have got it. But apparently they have like a 2'6" by 2'6". I didn't know they had that one. Because when they asked me about it, I'm like, I have no room for an 8 foot machine in my shop. And they're like, oh no, we're going to send you a 4 foot one. And I'm like, okay, I could handle a 4 foot one. And so, because I've got a 4 foot CNC, and sometimes people do ask me for those names for the weddings and stuff, and they want them 36, 42 inches and stuff like that. So I have a use for a machine that can cut that wide, because I got an order the other day and I had to cut it on the CNC because I did not have a laser. They wanted it 36. Like, they had laid this thing out. They had, it was one of those folks that basically had an engineer draw out their backdrop for their wedding, and it had to be 36 inches. Like, to fit where they wanted it, it had to be 36 inches. And so I couldn't do it on the lasers. I had to do it on the CNC. And that's not that big of a deal, but cutting that 1/4 inch Luan on the CNC, or not the 1/4 inch, the 1/4 inch birch on the CNC, it's just a little more setup time. That's really the only big deal with it, is it's, your hold down method's got to be a little different. It's a little more of a setup time. With 1/4 inch material, if you try to use, like if you use an upcut bit, it will literally pull the plywood up to the spindle. So you kind of have to cut with a downcut bit, which, there your speeds and feeds have to go down a little bit. It's a little more cumbersome cutting the thin plywood with the CNC than it is with the lasers. So I feel like if I can figure out how to keep it in here and keep it on hand for when I do have those bigger jobs, I feel like a 4 foot by 4 foot wouldn't be a bad idea. But it's got to work like they claim it's going to work, or it's not going to do any good. Now, ASMR has a good record of everything they've sent me, other than that little CNC. Everything that they sent me, I was happy with. And my expectations are probably just a little unrealistic for the CNC, because it has the sturdiness of a 3018. I'm sorry. It's not sturdy. But the mechanics of it, the way it works and everything, it's good. It's just not very rigid. So as long as this machine functions as a laser should, I'll be okay with it. I just got to figure out how I'm going to keep it around, if I'm going to keep it around, and how that's going to look as far as,
you're going to have a whole,
is this something I can mount to the wall and use it like a sheet cutter? You know what I mean?
You're going to have like a pulley system to lift it up to the ceiling and drop it back down.
Hey, I'm considering like a Murphy bed type thing to where it just folds up against the wall and it folds down, because it wouldn't be bad to have for the bigger things that I do. And at that size, I could technically, if I could figure out how to vent it and everything, I could technically do my stove covers and all in it too. So we'll see. Like I said, I got to get in here and play with it. It's going to be hard for me to lean into something that big. But I was a little worried, because I was like, it's going to be an open gantry, but it's really not, because it has almost like little garage doors on top of it. So I don't know how the camera's going to work though. It says it's got a camera, and it's like, how's the camera going to work?
And one of their things, they say
Right.
they have a detail area, like in the lower right or lower left corner. So I'm wondering if it's a camera covers only a certain part of it.
Yeah,
So,
we'll see. Like I said, I did get the assembly instructions, and I've been reading over those. And of course, it says this step requires 2 people. This step requires 2 people. So there's going to be another obstacle that I got.
yeah. Well,
I've
machine
got to
that big. Yeah. It's kind of like building an Avid CNC. You could
Yes.
probably do it yourself, but it helps to have an extra hand.
So
yeah, I had speaking of Murphy bed type tables, I had a train set on my wall as a kid. It was like a 4x8 sheet of plywood that had a box built around it, and then a box that it went into, and so they would fold down, and it had a couple of legs. So yeah, you just had to make sure that there were no trains on the track and other things weren't loose. But
yeah,
there's a will, there's a way.
See, well, what I've been thinking is we have those, like, I know you see these big dry erase boards that, like, they have like a T legs and their own wheels, and you can turn them and flip them over and so forth. But I thought about it. I was like, I could technically maybe make me like a little cart to keep excess wood and stuff on and roll it around. And then on the side of it, have me a little, have it to where it flips down and opens it up. But I'm gonna have to look at it when it gets here, see how heavy it is and what the center of gravity looks like and all that. But I'm gonna figure something out. But temporarily, it's gonna be set up on my my little power tool island over here, where the table saw and everything is. I'm gonna convert my little power tool island to a temporary table, just to get by and try it out and see.
Well, it'll be interesting. See how that pans out for you.
Well, I hope so. Hope it works out okay. But if nothing else, maybe I could make like a, have it like levitate to the ceiling or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Well, news fans asking a question on if I had to choose between the Polar Light or Reno series, which would it be? So he's talking about the Omtech Polar Light and the Monport Reno. I have the Reno Pro 45. And I did kind of answer this. Someone asked a comment on the video too, and I tried to give a little bit of pro and con between the two. If you're looking at the Pro Series Reno, technically it top speed at 600 millimeters a second versus 500 on this one. Honestly, between the two, you're rarely going to be up at that speed anyway. So I don't know that matters. If you're comparing the 45 to this one, the 55 Polar Light, the 45 has a smaller working area. I also feel like on the Reno, the air assist that comes with it is very anemic. I did a video on upgrading that either with an external air pump or on shop air with a relay. So I kind of feel like that's going to be something you're going to want to do. This one, I'd like to have more variability, but it's been doing pretty well as is without upgrading that. Plus, you can turn it on and off in Lightburn, so it's actually set up on that. So that's kind of a tick above. The other thing on the Reno, it is 100% external water cooling. So you either use a 5-gallon bucket and the aquarium pump they send you, or you ideally get at least the radiator, external radiator chiller, but preferably the actual chiller, the compressor chiller. So you have to have an external. It's not as compact. So, there's some things there. Now they've dropped the price of the Reno Pro down a little bit. I think it's down around $1,300 now. So it is a little bit cheaper, but it's a smaller working area. And I do feel like you'd have to do some upgrades to it. This one has a little bit bigger area. It's 12 by 20. Now, if you went to the Reno 65, which is a couple $100 more than this one, now you get a little bit larger working area and a little more power, but you still probably have the same issues of the air assist and such. They are now coming out with the Vision series. They have the 45 is released. The 65 is allegedly coming. This one has a camera, but it's good kind of in the center. But as you get out to the extents, it's off far enough. I mean, it's such a shallow area for a wide fisheye lens. You're going to be fighting that no matter what. And I kind of touched on that in the review as well. As cameras are good to get close, but very rarely do you get 100% of the working area is really accurate. So
yeah.
It just is what it is. And I think on both of these, the cameras are going to be kind of the same because they're awfully close. So I don't know. I mean, if I'm looking at the 45 versus the 55, I'm going to go with the Polar Light. If I want the working area, the The Reno 65 does have a little bit larger working area. So I think it's 16 by 24. So, you know, one thing I say is that real estate, if you've got the space for it, bigger is generally better, because you more often than not, you find you wish you had a little more space, then you go, wow, this is just too big. So, but I don't know. I mean, I would say I'd probably lean a little more towards the OhmTech, just because all the as is internal, it seems to be working a little bit better right out of the box. So, but there are some things to consider on those others.
Yeah, you said the light. One of the big differences was it doesn't have the linear rails. It's got the rods, right?
Yeah, it's got the rods and the steel wheels like you see on a lot of like the P2, the X-Tool D1. We've seen it on a number of them. They do have. I didn't measure the size because they're kind of buried on the Z-axis. There is a small linear rail system, but it's going to be kind of like your
Adam Stat uses those rails a lot now. The little rods like that.
Yeah, a lot of them are using that.
To go to them.
Yep. So it's definitely something to consider. If you're using it as a hobbyist or small business, really probably not a big deal. But if you're using it heavy, you know, that's going to become a maintenance issue, because those are going to, I mean, either one has maintenance to it, but the linear rails are probably going to be a little smoother. They've got a little more lubrication on them that doesn't wear off so fast.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a little bit of insight between the two of them.
Let's see. Bob's. I think I have the D80. I don't know if it'll. I think that's the D80. It's whatever that one right there is. I think, but that's the com marker. It's not a. It is a D80, I think, but I think they all buy them in the same spot. It's just.
What's this now?
Talking about the Rotary. Asking if it'll fit a like a Stanley, I guess. I don't know. I don't use fibers on those. Yeah, that is the D80. It's the com marker D80. Is that one that's right there? Will it? I mean, if I were going to use it for those, one thing that I will say is if you have a 3D printer, what I would do is make the adapters for the cup. That chuck is really, really like it'll grip them, but it's one of those it's reversible, so you can make it go in or go out. And it's a little rough on stuff because it's solid metal. So when I do use it with tumblers, I'll put rubber bands around the jaws so that I usually grab from the inside outward. And so I'll put the rubber bands around the jaws just to keep it from because it will, you can scratch tumblers and stuff with it if you're not careful.
If this is for a com marker machine, you might want to look at the R5, which is more like the Atom Stack ones.
That's the one that you got the other day, isn't it?
Yeah. I've been.
I think that one would be better for what we do. That R5 definitely looks nice, and it looks just like the Atom Stack, except for the pedestal. It's a little taller actually, which would be a good thing. But yeah, you got a link for that R5 since you.
Let me find it real quick.
I think you got a video on it too, don't you?
Not yet. I was working on it with some stuff. But I was having to work out some of the setup on that, and then I was trying to make some adapters for some silicone bands and such. But
yeah, hopefully I have the two rotaries that I have from Com Marker. I've got the Com Marker D69, which is like the little jewelry one. It's not really good for anything bigger than say a ring or maybe like some silicone bracelets or something. And then I have that Com Marker D80 that they sent me. The D80 is a beast. It's strong. Now, it'll hold about anything. But it's a little, to me, it's a little overkill for tumblers. I think that one that Steve's got would probably be a better fit for tumblers. Now they have the D80 Deluxe, which is like a chuck with a tail attachment to it. But yeah, I need to get my hands on one of those that like that one that you've got. Because this one, like I said, this one's okay. But if I was going to do, and like it does okay on glass too, but you got to be careful because I did like tighten down too tight on a piece of glass and bust it. Because
that can happen.
This is how you tighten that one. Like you got a little T handle. You got this T-handled Allen wrench. And that's how you tighten it. And so you have to be really careful not to over tighten it. Now, if you're trying to hold on to a piece of, metal or something like that, it's awesome because it's not coming loose.
But yeah, the R5 is much. I mean, it's really close to those others, like the Atom Stack and Sculptfun and whatnot. And so you can, if the jaws don't fit, you can 3D print or outsource some others. But that one you might have to clamp it from the inside of the cup rather than the outside, but it should be able to grab onto a 40 ounce, and then it has that tail stock as well. So
yeah. If I was going to do the 40 ouncers on this one, I would definitely print me a insert, 3D printed insert, and clamp the insert into the chuck, and then just have it to where the tumblers slide on there. That's the one benefit that I will say with these open machines like this is you have plenty of room to come in from the side and just kind of slide it on there until it stays in place. But yeah.
I think you did more of this with your S1. Melissa's asking about how to keep the crumb tray and honeycomb in exact placement on the S1.
The crumb tray and the honeycomb, I've made some little 3D printed parts, but mine required you had to basically take screws and put some self-drilling screws in there to hold it. And so I didn't make it publicly available because I was afraid people would mess their machines up and blame me for it. I did it and I showed people how I did it, but I didn't make it available because I didn't want nobody to be like, oh, you told me to do this and it voided my warranty or nothing like that. Because that will happen. But it's with the S1 that, or you can use like some rubber or styrofoam or something like that where you put it in those slots. You could use some rubber or styrofoam as spacers to kind of grip it and hold it in place. But there's really not a great way of doing it once you put the riser on there. Has been my biggest complaint with the S1 and the P2 is that the honeycomb, the blade beds or whatever, they didn't do a really good job of allowing you to use them to index materials and stuff. The P2 is no better. Like with the riser on the P2, I was trying to do tumblers and I couldn't, you had to basically go through the whole ordeal of squaring the chuck every time you changed tumblers because there was no way to get it to stay still, because when you slide that little oven tray in there, that crumb tray or whatever, you just sit the rotary on top of it and it just slides around and nilly-dilly. And I have a hard time trusting that with a $35 tumbler blank, especially when you're doing these Stanleys and Mammoths and stuff like that, the blanks aren't cheap. They're like $30. And if you mess one up, it's on you. So I just couldn't make myself do it. That's why my P2 is no longer up here, because I needed a CO2 that would do tumblers. And I have got the best tumbler setup that I have had since I've been doing this. And I'm loving it now. And I took the OhmTech and used the Atom Stack chuck because OhmTech didn't send me a very good rotary. So I'm using the Atom Stack chuck that me and Steve are always talking about. And I've retrofitted it to work with the OhmTech, and it is jam up for tumblers. I can't wait for my next big tumbler job because it's just easy now. I've marked every tumbler in this building, and it don't matter what color it is, it's the same settings.
I don't know why. I mean, 10 years ago when I got my first CO2 laser, the honeycomb bed they had machine screws and it was locked in place. To remove the honeycomb, I had to remove those screws. But since then, even on, like the OhmTech Maker 25 I've got, very similar machine, just smaller cabinet, the honeycomb just sits on top of those blades. And so many of them. I mean, Lasermatic's one that did that right with the pins to lock it in place. And it seems like it shouldn't be a hard thing to do, to have a way to capture that.
Just
Even
drill
if it's
a hole in it and put a couple of little indexing pins.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
So I don't know. I wish more places would, lock their crumb trays in place. I mean, have a way to lock it in place. Have a way to lock the honeycomb in place, to allow an easier method of repeatable cuts and using fixtures and jigs and things like that. So,
yeah. Well, that's one thing I will say about the Polar Plus. The Polar Plus, when you slide that honeycomb in there, it's in a tray that is like snug. And so once you slide it in there and put the crumb tray in, it's very little movement is possible. And if you're paranoid about it, you can always take some painter's tape and put around the edge just to make sure that it doesn't move. But I just run it like it is.
So the light doesn't have a removable crumb tray, or any sort of sliding thing like that. They have you can pull the honeycomb out and then there's a panel to open up for a rotary. They do have a couple of stops towards the back, so you can slide it in, you can rest it against there. So you could make like a wedge system on that one. But yeah, on things like the X-Tool S1 and such, there's not a lot of options without retrofitting it. So
yeah, it would take a little bit of engineering. Now, like I said, double-sided tape. If you want a temporary thing, get yourself some X-Fasten tape and put it in place. But you could, with some 3D printed parts and a couple of screws, you can make it stay in place. Now, I did come up with my my little S1 jig kit for engraving things, and it worked pretty well, but it limited the size of the work area, which you're going to not want to be near the edges of the work area anyway, because you're not going to be able to get the acceleration and deceleration correct. But it helps like for repeatable things if you use that jig kit. But as far as factory out of the box, the way X-Tool made it, there wasn't any good way. That's why I have my little
and they were the positioning dots were kind of added as an afterthought through the mobile app, because they developed their pinpoint system with using the crosshair, and that does work well, but it means that every time you drop it in, you have to redo your working area unless you have something to hold that in place. So yeah, I get it. It's definitely frustrating on trying to batch things out on that machine. And so it's not something I've ever addressed with mine. I kind of use that one as like a one-off machine or customization machine. I don't do a lot of batching operations on that one. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look at mine again, because I've been looking at a lot of them. I mean, even on that Monport Reno Pro, I had to 3D print some clips to lock that honeycomb in place. And I've been looking at it on a few others, but something I'd like to see manufacturers be a little more mindful about, because you're not talking about a lot of hardware to do that.
Yeah. But Melissa, if you want to go look for my S1 jig kit, see if that's something that might help you with what you're trying to do. I've got some videos on my channel. You can just search the content for S1 jig and pull that up. And if that's something that you think would work for you or help you, it definitely helped me, because once you build that jig out and you set everything and save that file, you can just open and go. You don't have to, it's not a lot of setup time or anything like that. Now it does, like I said, it does reduce your work area, because I had to make the kit so that you could cut the kit with the S1. And in order to get it to somewhere that you could attach it to the frame of the machine, you have to like slide it to the left outside the work area. And it's got a hole in there basically where you take one of the screws loose that holds the crumb tray on the bottom. You take that screw out and put a little bit longer screw in there. It's actually a screw that they send with the machine when they ship it. And you put that screw in there and it holds everything in place and makes it indexable. So, and it doesn't require you to modify your machine. Now, I will tell you, for some reason, the UK machines are slightly different. So there may be a difference, but I think I wound up addressing that with early on. I think there may be actually a file in there for the UK.
Norbert has a good question. Is anyone else making for Christmas season? And if you're planning on Christmas season, unless you're doing all customized things, I hope you are, because it's basically it's upon us. You know, we're kind of rapidly. I mean, Halloween's already here as far as people, you know, looking at decorations and such, and Christmas comes really quickly after that. And they tend to just forget all about Thanksgiving here in the U.S. when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, you got to be thinking a bit ahead on that if you're doing stuff. But as we've mentioned before, be very careful batching out too many things that are year specific, because you're going to find yourself with some.
Yeah, don't put the year on there.
With some,
I've still got some 2022 Christmas ornaments if anybody wants them.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I've worked on today, and I had a guy ask me. They're wanting to build a memorial walkway out of bricks, and it's our local master gardeners or whatever. And so they're going to have, they're going to do some bricks with different people's name and part of their organization or whatever. And he asked me, he said, can you engrave a brick? And I was like, you know, that's a really good question, because I think I can, but I've never really tried it. And so he brought a couple of bricks over, and he wanted one to take back to his group, into the organization, and show them, you know, what we could do. But I did not know that a 60-watt MOPA will turn a brick, like it will turn the sand in that brick to glass, because that's exactly what that is. And I know it's hard to see on here, but if you zoom in, it has turned that brick into a clear crystalline structure that's kind of black. Like, and it was bubbling up when I was engraving it. I went really slow, and it bubbled up, and it made like little glass bubbles. And when it cooled off, I took pictures of them and stuff. I'm gonna do a video of doing these bricks, because I'd never seen anybody do it, and it's pretty neat. The energy that went into that darn brick is just amazing with that MOPA, because it heated it up. I couldn't believe how hot it got. So that it's pretty neat. So we're going to be having a video soon, because I got one more practice brick. He took that one back with him so he could show the people in his club, you know, what the bricks are going to look like. And I told him to take it and test it and all that. We took it out in the driveway and out here and got some sand, and like tried to sand it with actual sand, you know, to kind of simulate wear from people's feet. And it just stayed like it was. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, Chris said you can turn slate into glass as well. Yeah, I've done some slate where it turns into that gold looking glass almost, but this was like clear. Like it blew my mind. I was like, that is legit glass. And he's like, seriously? I was like, yeah. So, but yeah,
we have a lot of limestone and sandstone in this area. And so I've played around with a few different rocks and such, and some of them, yeah, they do ablate away and kind of leave a pocket, but you get into those more sedimentary rocks, and you get that kind of molten glass bubbling effect on a lot of them. So
yeah, see, this is the other test brick that I have, and so I'm gonna play around with it. I'm probably gonna take it outside and like rub it on a sand or something and clean it up a little bit. But I'm gonna try to do a video with it as soon as I get caught up. But yeah, he brought two of them, and we played with the one, and then he's like, well, you can keep that one and just do some more testing if you want to, because I thought I might could actually play with it and get even better looking settings. So
cool. Cody's asking if we've seen the AI feature that Carveco is dropping this fall. I know at least James Dean and Hamilton Dilbeck put out a couple of preview videos on it. I know both of us had kind of a preview on it. We've been talking with Carveco a little bit since Workbench Con, but I didn't get to watch both those videos fully yet.
I hadn't had a chance either.
So the preview that I got was probably a couple months ago or so, and I mean, it was kind of your typical AI stuff. I think that back then it was still a little rough. It was having a little trouble working some things out, but I did skim through the first half of James' video and kind of what he was able to do with it. And it is interesting. And it's definitely going to make some things easier for people as far as kind of speaking your creations into existence. We're not quite at the Star Trek replicator yet, but yeah, AI is and having Carveco interpret that into a depth map and everything is kind of an interesting interesting path we're going down to see where this kind of takes us as far as people being able to create things versus, you know, I don't know. I worry about artists to some degree, you know, because it's going to water them down quite a bit. And a lot of AI is trained off of existing material. And so you got to kind of put that in balance with it. But the technology behind it intrigues me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a preview of the software, and I actually have it. I have access to it, but I have been too busy to even get in there and learn how to use Carveco, the basic parts of Carveco. I did get in there the other day. I was working on a job, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to use Carveco to do this. And I was lost as a ball in high weeds. And so after about 10 or 15 minutes of trying to make a file that shouldn't have took me but 5, I was like, you know what, I still require some training before I can do this. And so I went into Vectric, did it, and then just got the job done. I've got to take the time to sit down and learn Carveco because I don't want to halfway do it. And it's like right now, it's not fluid for me. And so I haven't released a video or anything like that because I just ain't had a chance. I ain't had a time with everything going on, me getting ready for retirement, trying to get, you know, this last month or two, trying to ramp my local sales up, getting my name out there a little bit more, because I've always tried to hide a little bit to an extent as far as the local stuff goes. I haven't really pushed advertising other than just my Facebook page. But, you know, as I'm getting ready to retire, I'm going to have more time. You know, I've got my buddy Tim, you know, outsourcing me for stuff and all that. So I've been a lot busier than normally I would be, but it's so that when I do retire, I ain't sitting around here twiddling my thumbs with no work. You know what I mean? I'm trying to go ahead and ramp the work up. So I haven't had a chance to go through the software completely and get familiar with it. And that's my fault. but it's just been hectic. It's been busy. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat in that I need to commit to a project and play with it. And you're funny, Cody, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
Probably need to just sit down, watch a few more of James's videos, and or just, you know, get on the horn with him and just say, all right, get me started on this. But I don't know. I mean, that's old dog new tricks kind of territory with some of this stuff. Is you get good and you get used to, you know, the shortcuts in a certain application, what certain tools do and where they're located, and it's frustrating to switch. So
yeah,
that's why I still use SketchUp sometimes. I've been using that thing for 15 years or more. So
yeah. Well, it's just like I said, it's just one of the matter of when I'm trying to get stuff done, it seems like it slows me down because I haven't taken the time to learn the software. But I don't have the extra time right now between, you know, being at work and trying to do this in the afternoons and weekends. You know, I haven't got to do any of my outdoor stuff like fishing or hunting or anything in the past 3 years, really. I mean, I've been a handful of times. So I just don't, you know, have a whole lot of time. And then my daughter's, you know, during band season, I stay going with, you know, her going to ball games and stuff like that. So hopefully in about 52 days, things will get a little bit more open. But I've got so much catching up to do. It'll be 2026 before I actually start getting any free time because I've got stuff that's backed up that I need to do. I haven't done. I mean, you know how it is. You just push things to the back and you're like, okay, I'll get to that later. And then later never comes. So
yeah, no, I'm in a similar boat. I mean, I honestly, I haven't been out to our model airplane club at all this year. and we just had our big military fly-in event, which draws in a good 100+ pilots from all over the U.S. And I've been there almost every single one, and this would have been year 21 or so. And so, I mean, I did a lot of administrative stuff on the back side with, websites and registrations and such. But yeah, it seems like this year has gotten away from me for anything, any fun relaxation type stuff. And I feel like I'm getting behind out here as well. So, but we'll see. Hopefully that's one of the things that winter for me, it's kind of there's less pressure to get out and do things, although there's a lot of winter activities as well. For me, it's kind of like the quasi hibernation. I get to like just focus on, indoor things, shop things, whatnot. So yeah, hopefully we'll get caught up on that. But yeah, the Carveco stuff is cool. I know Millmage just, that's out there. I think Saint Smart's teaming up with Easel. There's a lot of opportunities that places are kind of pushing to try to get people into the CNC with just a little bit less hassle. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the Carveco, I mean not the Carveco, the Easel Genmitsu pair up would be pretty decent for like brand new people.
Yeah, I mean Carveco, you can buy a perpetual license, but it's not cheap. Easel, I don't remember if they do, but I mean, it's nice because it has a lower initial cost, but over time that subscription is, it's just a constant. That's one thing Vectric, it's a little bit of a pill to swallow up front. I mean, although if you're looking at the 4040 Pro from Genmitsu, or the desktop version will work, and it's $350.
Like I'm on Pro now, so
it's a little bit more, but that's a couple years of Easel or less, year and a half of Easel. So, and it's a perpetual license unless you want to update. So I don't know. It is a little more expensive than Lightburn, but I don't know. I've had people ask me what's a good free software to start on, and I'm just like, here's a couple you can try, but I'll be honest, I don't use them.
Radu's asking, how would the UV 5-watt work on a brick? Fiber better or faster, but if UV is all you have, I would imagine it would work, but it would be slow. Because I know, just like on metals, like if you're just trying to mark metals, it's not that slow. It does okay. But if you're trying to do any kind of depth, or if you're not going to get the glass effect with the UV because it's not going to get it hot, not hot enough to do that. It might ablate it, so you might have like more of a recess. I don't know. It may be something I play with in my video that I'm going to do with this brick. We'll see. But yeah, it would definitely be a different kind of burn. That's what I was explaining to the guy earlier. With the fibers, what happens a lot of times is with some materials, especially the brick, it actually raises up a little bit instead of being engraved, it's kind of like raised up because it gets that material hot, and like it melts it and it hardens back, but it's a little raised when you get through with it. Whereas with the UV, it's not going to get the material as hot, but it's going to break it down. It's going to ablate it and basically turn it to powder, so that you'll actually end up with an impression in there where it's actually engraved, I guess you could say. So it's a different look with the two different machines. And I'm pretty sure if I'd have played with the settings, I probably could have come up with, a frequency and everything that works for just ablating the brick with the fiber. But when I hit that, melting it, turning it to glass, when I hit that, I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna leave it like that. So I want to play around with it a little bit more and see how it does.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at some of my stock footage here real quick, because I'm pretty sure I played with slate and the UV. It is slower, but you're right. It'll give you the kind of that more of that chiseled stone look. It wasn't, so with the slate, it was digging down. It was still kind of changing it that white color, but it wasn't as brilliant as a CO2 or a fiber. But it definitely was taking away material, but slowly.
Yeah, with that one, like I said, I felt like the fiber would be the better option because I didn't know how many of those things he wanted me to do. But it's a nonprofit group, local group that, those folks are gardeners. And so, the bricks could tie into like, garden labels and, beautification awards. And I mean, there's all kinds of things that they do. So I felt like this would be a good little team up for me to be able to help them with a project that they're working on, because nobody else in the county that we know of or that anybody knows of can do it. I'm sure there may be somebody hiding a fiber laser in their closet or somewhere, but as far as businesses that are out there, I've kind of got the monopoly on anything other than CO2 lasers, because that's what all the businesses around here that do that kind of stuff, they have a CO2 laser and that's it. They don't have any of the rest of them. So, Dave's asking, does the CO2 work on a brick? I would think it could. I mean, they do granite with CO2s because, like, what is it? The AP laser. I mean, that's how they got started, was doing tombstones. So yeah, CO2 will, but I don't know that you're gonna. I don't know what the look would look like. Like I said, that's something I haven't done. I may have to, like I said, there may be 3 or 4 videos with it, because I would love to get my hands on a little small piece of granite and start doing like maybe some pet memorials or something also. But you got to figure out where to source that stuff.
Yeah, if you talk to them, if you got a monument maker near you, sometimes they get almost like offcuts, or they can get smaller parts. But yeah, it's not cheap. A friend of mine did that. He actually did a granite memorial for their dog. They had to put down. So
yeah. Yeah, everybody keeps saying make sure it's dry. I think that you definitely don't want to be doing anything that can generate heat inside a sealed little pocket is not necessarily a good thing. Typically speaking, I would, unless the brick came from the bottom of the river or something, they should be relatively dry if they've been air drying for a day or two. But like natural stone, you can have pockets of water and stuff in it, and if it vaporizes and turns to steam builds up pressure, and when steam's under pressure, it wants to get out. So,
well, even pockets of air in stone, like shale and such, you can turn that into shrapnel in a hurry, like if you heat it up. So yeah, it's definitely not something you want to like go down to the river or the lake and be pulling stones out and just dropping them in the laser. But,
yeah.
Bricks, you should. I mean, they're generally kiln fired, so
yeah. It's like bricks are cooked like cookies, unless they've been sitting out in the rain, like, or in the water, like maybe in a creek or something. You should be okay after a couple of days in the sun. But
Jerry, what do I do after the Vikings win the Super Bowl? Usually the alarm goes off and I wake up. Yep. Yeah.
Brett's in the house.
Yeah, Jack, that's one of the ones I recommend, but it does have its limitations. I mean, especially when people are talking about, hey, I'm doing this for my business and making these things. Well, you can use it to a point, but even that, if you bring too much income in or have too many projects going and such like that, it's gonna be limiting as well. So
Gray's asking how Biscuit's doing. Crazy as ever. He's been in the shop all day today. He went out earlier, and it's done got a little cooler outside here, and so he likes being outside now that's cooled off, because it's been dropping into the 70s past few days. So,
man, I hope we get there.
Yeah, I don't know what it is outside right now, but it's been nice. I don't know where this weather came from, but it's been pretty nice.
There you go. It looks like Brett's got a video on engraving bricks with CO2, so people can check that out too.
Cool. Yeah, it looks like it's going to drop down to 74 tonight. So that's great. Like today felt really nice. It got up, I think the high was like 85 here today. It was nice. That's a far cry from what we've been having. And Mark's is 101 right now there. I'm good. I'm good. We've had plenty of hot weather for now.
Yeah. I hate to say it.
But I'm looking at adding the Com Marker UV or the Hayocean. What is either of your opinion on Com Marker's tech support? Well, I've never had to call their tech support, so I really wouldn't know. I've never had a problem.
I would say with them, because I've reached out to them with some questions over time. I've actually tried to make it a habit of doing that more. Even if I don't have an issue, I try to like email their support to like see what do they say, what do they tell me. For them, I think it was kind of your typical. It's gonna take you a good day, sometimes two, depending on when you send the email to get back to you. But I guess I would say that I would call them average. They didn't stand out like some of them are out there. Lasermatic's one of them that's got some really great customer support. Others, it goes into a void. You don't hear anything. I would put ComMarker as kind of your typical Chinese company. It's going to be a day or two, and if they have to reply again, it's probably going to be another day. But I haven't had anything to the point where I need someone to get like on the phone or on a web chat with me. It was more just like, hey, I need some information on this, or do you have this? Can I get information on this source? Or like I sometimes I'll reach out on like, can I get on CO2 lasers? Can I get the actual like specs and the milliamp rating and things like that on this tube? So a lot of the questions I throw at them are a little more like they could reply in an email. Hasn't been too much of the I'm having this weird issue. What do you want me to do? Kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I haven't, and I've never laid hands on a Hayocean machine. I've heard other people talk about them. They seem fine. I know the guy. What is his name? He was at LBX this past was it a week or two ago, and everybody talks good about him. So I mean, there's that. I don't know, but I've never had one of the machines, so I don't know. I've seen them, and they look a lot like any of the other machines. So
I don't know that he does support, but is it Pascal?
Pascal.
Rich is saying that Brad does support for Hayocean in Michigan, I'm thinking. So I've heard good things about their response time, but like I say, I haven't worked with them or dealt with them, so I can't. This is all kind of secondhand information, but
yeah. North Alabama Smoke says, in honest opinion, what does an affordable desktop CNC need at least a 15 to 16 inch bed? And I know this is one that I think we agree on. At least the two options anyway, which is going to be the Genmitsu 4040 Pro Max or the Masuder 3S, depending on your budget.
Yeah, I mean, both of them are they're similar. The 4040 Pro Max is going to be a little bit cheaper off the gate, but and both of them are expandable, but just depends on if you want to go wider or deeper. I mean, in the end, it's all the same, but sometimes orientation and layout matters. So those are currently in that kind of 16 inch. That's about 15 3/4, I guess, is what it would be.
Yeah, 400 millimeters.
Are two pretty good options that we both have had our hands on.
Yeah, I've got both of them. Matter of fact, my Masuder is sitting right there. My Genmitsu you can't see, but yeah, it's a if if all you need is a 400 by 400 work area, either one of those machines would be something that you could make products with reasonably quick. I mean, very close to the same speeds as you're going to do with some of the bigger machines, because they're very sturdy. You're not going to be, you're not going to be chucking up a 1/2 inch bit or anything like that. But with 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch bits, you can run through some material really quick with them, and they're semi portable if you need to move it around or have it on a cart or roll it around through your shop. And like Steve said, both companies offer a bunch of different upgrades and extensions and stuff like that. Fox Alien just came out with their own 1.5 kV spindle with controller and everything, which I think is going to be pretty cool, knowing the way that their machine works now. Jinmitsu, they have a 710 watt trim router that they make that's really nice for using with these machines. But you could put a 1.5 or 1.2, whichever spindle on the Jinmitsu 4040, but now you're spending as much on a spindle as you spend on the machine. So, it just depends on what you want to do. But yeah, you could take that Masuda 3S with the closed loop steppers, add that extension kit to it and a spindle, and have a really usable machine. You've got the extension kit. How wide does it make it?
800 millimeters. I think it's 80/40 at that point.
Yeah. So you're looking at 32 inches wide. So, I mean, and for most people that are doing charcuterie boards and small signs and stuff like that, 15 inch by, 30 inch work area is pretty nice for a CNC.
Yeah. I think upgradability, the Fox Alien, in my mind, being able to go wider, that $500 option to drop in the spindle, and $400. I mean, yeah, you can start out with $1,000 machine. You can add the rails for $400 and another $500. I mean, granted, you're up to $2,000 at that point, but I think it's going to be a pretty nice machine at that
Still
point.
Cheaper than $4,500 for a 2 foot by 4 foot Shiboko or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So a nice way to go. So like I said, hopefully this fall I'll get the extensions on mine, and then maybe I can look at that spindle add-on. Of course, then I'll be like, my 150 will be jealous.
I was fixing to say, I haven't used the 3S as much as I would like to, because I keep testing machines, and so it's like when I need to use a small machine, I'm already got one in the shop for testing. But I do like the 3S. The 3S is definitely one of my top entry machines. Like as far as the really small CNCs, the 3020 Pro Max or whatever that we just recently got, that if you need a really small machine and you're going to do maybe some play around with some aluminum and stuff like that, that to me is a really good entry level machine. Anything smaller than that, so far I have not been impressed. Any of the as far as being able to do big boy stuff with a beginner CNC, like the 3018s, the Cubico, stuff like that. You can do stuff with them, but it's going to be really slow, and your materials are going to be really limited.
Yeah.
But with the Pro Max versions of the Jinmitsu and the Masuda, you can actually do big boy stuff with them.
Yep.
At a reasonable pace. So.
Mark's asking if either of us are scheduled to get the Monport Auto Forge. I haven't talked to them about it. And I'll be honest. I mean, those conveyor systems, I have yet to see one work good enough to my standards over time. And I've talked to a number of other people that have tested them as well, and just like, yeah, 50-60% to get close enough. I mean, it's just the accuracy on that is just not, it's not there. So it's not something I'm looking for or really actually want to test. Because I'd like to see other people have some success with it and hopefully be honest about whether it's good or not. But
yeah, that whole like AI camera automated batching thing, I mean, I guess it looks good on sales brochures, but I've yet to see anybody execute that with any like reasonable amount of accuracy. Like I said, to me, you're just wasting blanks. If you're wanting to do that, just knock out a little quick jig, whether it's cardboard or whatever, throw them in there and do them. And yes, it may take a little bit longer, but you're not going to waste 50% of your blanks, because I've got the F1 Ultra with the conveyor, the little grocery aisle thing or whatever, and 50% of them were acceptable, but probably actually only about 20% were to my standard, as far as running stuff through there and it actually marking it where it needed to be. So it's yeah, I'm with Steve. It's kind of like the whole color on stainless steel. It's not really something I look for as far as business. If I'm playing around, just having fun, whatever. But as far as selling items, that's not an idea that has a place in my shop, because I don't want to buy 300 keychains and have to throw 100 of them away because the graphics off-centered.
Yeah. Gray Vikings asking, can Galvos do glassware? I'm on the fence right now to get something to do glassware, X-Tool F2 or something, other suggestions. So Galvo is the type of, basically you have multiple sources. And so it's got the mirrors that are reflecting that beam onto the work surface. So you can have diode Galvo, you can have fiber Galvo, UV, CO2. So yeah, if you get the right wavelength, and with glassware, your UV is going to be your best bet for that, but that's going to be limiting in other fashions if you want to do a lot of cutting. Diodes can, but you have to add, a binder like like tempera paint or something, or marking spray. CO2s can do glass without that, but it tends to be a little more of a harsh engrave, and you risk fracturing the glass a little bit more and chipping it than frosting it. So those three styles could. The F2 is a MOPA, and you would have to get the fibers don't do well with glass. You have to use a binder, and you're more likely to shatter it from the heat. So you'd have to get the blue diode option on that. And at that point, I feel there's better lasers. If you're just looking to do glassware, I would steer more towards one of the UV lasers that's out there, if that's your main focus with that.
Yeah, the UV is the way to go for glass, no doubt. Jerry said he was shocked on your video.
How common it is going to depend on their QC and how they put their insulation on. In this one's case, they have kind of a tight area, so a lot of them will use a larger. It's an actual, it's got ceramic and then it's got plastic around it, and so it's well encapsulated. I don't know that you have room for that in this one. I've done this type of joint before when I've replaced tubes. Actually, there's a way you can twist the wires together. You don't really end up soldering them, and then it's more of a mechanical joint, and then you start layering up some insulation, but then you always end up with kind of that vinyl or silicone tube that you fill up with silicone sealant, and that tends to be a pretty decent insulator. The other thing is to move it as far away from your grounded frame as possible. So usually you'll tape it down to the tube, and usually the tube is in a bit more of an open area. So how common is it? It shouldn't be a common occurrence on a good machine with quality control, but it depends on the type of fastener and joining system they use. This one just happened to not be good. So I wanted to leave it in there as kind of just a heads up if you hear this, because it can be a dangerous situation, especially if your machine isn't grounded properly. And it can also really damage your tube and your power supply if it goes on too long. So it's not difficult to fix. You just got to be careful. You do want to unplug and let that power supply definitely drain out its capacitors and any residual power, because that high voltage is going to drop you fast if you touch it and there's still juice in it. So, but this isn't the first machine I've seen it on. It's disappointing to see it, but I don't know how common it is for them. I've only seen one of their machines. I've had two OhmTech machines. One of them arced.
Well, my Polar Plus doesn't do it.
Yeah. So, but it's if you're getting into CO2 lasers, eventually you are probably going to replace the tube, and you're going to need to be able to deal with that line and know how to insulate it. So I kind of left that in there. So
yeah. Had enough. Okay, says what about the CNC MK2 1800 for 48 by 30? CNC Labs has got a nice machine. I mean, I can't knock it if you want to spend the money. It's not terribly expensive if you have room for the 48 by 30, definitely. So I mean, it's all really comes down to what do you have the room for and what's your budget. Because yes, I guess you mean $1,800 is what it costs. That's not a whole awful amount of money, as long as but you still got to consider you've got to come up with either a spindle or a router or something. I'm assuming that doesn't come with a spindle, and then you've got dust collection and all that stuff too, which you're going to have with the other machines as well. But like with the Genmitsu comes with the little router that they sell, and you can actually get the Masuder. The spindle on it is decent, but I would definitely like something a little bit bigger.
I think their beginner's kit comes with the Makita and dust shoe. I mean, it's a pretty complete kit from CNC Labs.
That's that MK2?
Yeah.
1800? Yeah.
You
that
can get a
be bad.
starter in
I like their machines. Their rapid speeds are nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their 3030 is about 1,700. I don't know what shipping would be, but yeah, it's but I mean, there again, it's the space. I mean, for some people, they don't have the footprint for that, whereas the 4040 I can pick up, I can set on the workbench, and I can move it underneath the bench if I need to. So that's one of the things that's kind of nice for if you don't have a dedicated spot for it.
North Alabama says, okay, cutting 1/4-inch plywood on the CNC a lot faster than like a 40-watt diode. No, I can throw a piece of 1/4-inch ply over here in one of my machines and have it cut before you can even get it like held down and get the machine set up on a CNC. That's the benefit.
Well, my old one, I could probably do it faster. I had a vacuum table on that thing. You drop it down, power
that would be good for cutting thin materials. But
yeah, well, and that's why, because I was doing a lot of balsa and thin ply in bigger sheets, so it was almost required. But
yeah, you start trying to cut a 4-foot, because I did it the other day. I cut a 4-foot by 4-foot piece of 1/4-inch, and I screwed up in the beginning, and I didn't realize I was using an upcut bit, and I saw it. Like it lifted it, but it didn't snatch it. It just lifted it and it came loose. And I'm like, whoa. So I stopped it and changed the bit out, redid the file, and run it with a down cut, and it did fine then. But you can rip through it, not a problem. Part of the problem with 1/4-inch materials with a CNC is if you don't get your feeds and speeds right, you're not going to have those smooth edges on the veneers up top. If you try to dive too deep into that plywood, that outer shell is going to come off. And if you don't punch through the bottom of it into a spoil board or another piece of material or something, you're going to have the frazzly edges on the bottom of it. Whereas with a laser, other than a little bit of black soot on the edges, it's going to be smooth and you're not going to damage the veneers, on the outsides of it. So there are advantages to CNCs and there are advantages to lasers, but 1/4-inch material, to me, lasers are the way to go. It's just setup's quicker, it's cleaner, and just downright easier in my book. If you had a big, vacuum tabled machine with, maybe. Right.
It depends on your setup and whatnot. I mean, in the end, if it's a simple design, a CNC is probably going to be faster and cleaner cut, so there are definitely benefits to each, but it's kind of what you got going in your shop and what your setup is, your hold downs and everything. So, but yeah, like you mentioned, the trick is in the holding it down and on the CNC. So, IG Creates asking anyone running American Photonics lenses, what are your thoughts? I have in the past. American Photonics is a really nice company. They're out of Florida, and I've used a number of their products, and they've got pretty good support and some quality stuff. So I would not have a problem with that. I don't have any of their lenses or mirrors in my current machines, but they're one of the places I look when I need to replace them. So I've dealt with them more than once and been very happy with everything from them. So.
All right, Kevin's asking, says, just curious for starting point, been asked to do 300 double-sided beer glasses, F1 Ultra Blue or IR or neither. Given those two, I'd go with the blue on glass. I'm guessing it's glass. Yeah, this is glasses.
Yeah, the IR is not going to work too well on it.
Yeah, it's going to chip it. If it does anything, it's going to probably chip the crap out of it. But yeah. The F1, was it Ultra F1 Blue? Yeah, if you got the F1 Ultra, set that thing up as even if it's a two-sided. If you've got the RA2 Pro, you can lay that out just right, set that up, and you can run those on blue and do a really, really good job. The trick is going to be to make sure whatever you use, me personally, I would, whatever it is, needs to be some kind of aerosol, whether it be marking spray or an airbrush or whatever. Don't try to use a paintbrush. I've tried that, and you're going to have lines in your engrave.
Yeah,
a paintbrush just does not work for me. Either an aerosol, whether it be like just an airbrush or a spray can, some way of getting an even, thorough coating of whatever binder you're using.
Or I mean, at that point, depending on your price point, what you quoted for them, getting some of the marking spray.
Yeah,
it's going to go on fast. It's going to dry fast.
Clean up easy.
It cleans up easy. And a little bit goes a long way. So it might be something to consider, the blue laser and the marking spray.
Oh, I would definitely use marking spray. I mean,
it's gonna be faster than the airbrush and the drying of the tempera paint and such. So
yeah, I mean, if you're doing 300 of them, dirtying up the airbrush and mixing up the paint and all that and getting the viscosity right, it makes it a little more worth it than a one-off. You're having to dirty up your airbrush and clean it for just one. But I would still go with marking spray because just the consistency that I get with marking spray makes it worth it.
Yeah. Gray Viking. Yeah. I mean, check out my video on the S1 doing glass. I did it last Christmas time, making some lanterns. Depending on what you're wanting to do for weddings, you might be able to get started with that. Again, you're just going to need to use some marking spray or some paint to get it to work. But the faster option is definitely going to be UV or CO2. It's just there's the expense and then the learning curve of that too. So you could definitely add some options in with your current equipment.
Dan's asking, have the teething issues with Lightburn 2 been ironed out yet? I need to update, but I have mission critical job, so I'm scared to hit the button. There's still some I've still got gremlins in mine. I'm not going to say it's in all of them, but there's still a few gremlins in it. I was running stove covers today, and I was doing some stuff yesterday with my Atom Stack X40, and this thing's never went unresponsive, but my Atom Stack went unresponsive a couple of times, and I had to restart the machine to get it to reconnect to Lightburn. Could it be something else? Yeah, sure it could, but it was working fine until I updated. So, I'm suspicious that could have been an issue. Now, I did, however, reboot my computer after I did the update and just brought everything back up from new. And today I ran it. I ran doing all these stove covers that you see sitting around the shop here. I did all of those today, and I had no hangups. So the one thing that it could have been that I just needed to reboot everything. With the new Lightburn going in, because I don't remember if I did when I installed the update or not. So I would recommend, if you do go for the update, make sure you do a good clean, shut down and start up. Not a hot reboot, but shut it down, leave it off for few seconds and then power it back up. That's what I did yesterday after I got through working out here, and I didn't have any problems today. So coincidence, possibly, but I think maybe there were some drivers that was attached to the update that didn't quite go all the way in. And then when I did the reboot, they went in all the way. So you never know. But I didn't have any issues today. Yesterday, I was just having some problems. One of the graphics that I was trying to do on the tumbler the other day with the Polar Plus, it hung up. But that graphic always gives me trouble because it's got a bunch of tiny little specks in it, and it just it doesn't like Lightburn when it's trying to come up with a tool path. It'll make it be slow to respond for a little while.
Yeah.
Have you swapped over yet? You said you have, haven't you?
I have it on the new laptop I bought to do some testing with it. But yeah, I've heard other people also with some communication dropouts and such, just some weird oddities. So I can't 100% say that I haven't had issues with it, but it's been fairly stable. But again, I'm using it on test machines, not on production stuff yet. Just to kind of see how things are. I have noticed a couple differences in it. The way it does its material test, it kind of reorders how it does how it goes, from top to bottom. It actually kind of does more of a corner thing. It seems to go from low power, high speed to high power, low speed. I don't know. Anyway, there's some weird oddities that I'm trying to figure out with that, but it's also a new computer and new lasers. So it's not necessarily the best test to see if there are, issues. So, but from what I've been hearing from the community, if you're wanting to play with it and it's not going to disrupt business, sure, drop it on there. Just make sure you've got the old download. It's not hard to revert if you need to. Just make sure you pull a backup of your devices and all your libraries and whatnot before you do any of that. You should do that anyway, but then you can revert back as needed. Looks like Rich has got to take off, but thanks, Rich, for stopping by. Always good to see you. And Vac Fink says loving American Photonics lenses. Their service is spectacular. I talk in person with someone from an issue. Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about that company is you can call them up. They're pretty quick to respond, even to emails and such. So definitely a company that's on my list for various laser supplies and such. So. JR's asking, trying to get the best of all worlds, a rotary chuck for the Thunderbolt that I can adapt also to my Comarch or Omni. Is it just as simple as a pin out connector and build an adapter? 90% of the time, yes. But certain ones may require a different stepper driver, or if your laser has too low of a power bus for its stepper drivers, that could be an issue if you're getting like a really monster chuck. But if you're getting some of the typical ones that you can find outside of the more industrial ones, you should be okay. It's just getting the pin out and making an adapter 90% of the time.
Yeah, you could if you don't already have one, especially for the Thunderbolt. I can tell you that the Rotoboss Pro, I think it is, whatever it is that they typically ship with the Thunder, it works really good with the Thunderbolt. And I know that you can also, if I'm not mistaken, you can get it to work with the comm marker. So, might be that you could just order one chuck from like Rotoboss or whatever and have them send you two different pigtails for it, because I don't remember if it's permanently attached or if it unplugs. But I know the Thunderbolt, that one that they've got, that buddy Tim's got with the Thunderbolt, it works really great. I like the way that it works. I want to get me one of those for here in the shop, but that's a big jump. When I'm getting such good results with these atom stacks, it's hard for me to pull the trigger on that. You know what I mean? Because Because, like, I'm telling you, these tumblers that I did this week with this OhmTech, the best looking tumblers I've ever done, and not have to sit here for 2 or 3 hours trying to find the perfect set. Like, I got ballpark settings and ran it, and it worked. And I was just like, I did tweak the LPI a little bit because I was used to using diodes, so I had to play with the LPI just a little bit to get that brand new stainless steel look. But man, it looks good. I need a big tumbler job now. Yeah, Chris Gallagher says he makes adapter cables. The only thing is making sure the wiring can handle the voltage. That's according to Chris Gallagher there. I haven't tried using any other rotaries with mine yet. Like I said, I've got that one set up on the UV. Now that chuck works with all of my galvos so far.
Yeah, and that's why you see on some of them, even like the Atom Stack ones and such, they'll often give you like a crossover or adapter cable for certain similar lasers. So it's a lot of times it just is the pin out, but there are some machines that, like I say, it might have if you've got an underpowered stepper driver for it, it could mess you up trying to pull too much. But not having a thunder laser, I don't know on that specifically.
Well, I don't have one. I just get to play with it from time to time. I get to train people how to run it. And it's weird that they're like, oh, do you have one of these? No, I don't have this one. Oh, well, but you know how to run it? Yeah, because it's light burn. I mean, it's the same as my machines. But that thing, man, is fast. Like you can't even video it with your phone because it's going so fast. It looks like the rotor on a helicopter when you're trying to video it, where it looks like it's sitting still. It's crazy.
Jack's got a good point with the light burn conversation. Is you can install the new version to a different folder location, and you should be able to then swap between the two. So that might be something to try as well.
Don's asking, will flat gray cold galvanizing compound spray work for marking glass? I don't know. I've never tried it. All I know is that as I was growing up and when I used to do a lot of welding, everybody told me do not weld galvanized because it releases chemicals that could do bad things to your brain. So I try to avoid heating up galvanized, especially with like a laser.
Yeah.
If I have something that's specifically designed for that, I use marking spray. Yes, it's expensive, but I've got it's over there now. I've got a can of marking spray that I've had now for about 2 years. No more than I use it. Like I bet I do 200 tumblers with it because once you learn how to use it properly and you just literally like, pss, pss, and that's all you need. I mean, unless you got like a really big graphic, it lasts forever. So I don't fool around with these different things and different sprays. I found something that worked early on. And for 4 years, I buy marking spray. And I buy the most expensive marking spray, a.k.a. Surmark. But it's because it works. And I figured out how to use it to do the different things. When I get through, I can literally take whatever it is into the house, run some water in the sink, use a rag, and wash it right off. And there's not a whole lot. I've tried the spray paint. I've tried the primer. I've tried the white paint, and white paint does work, but Surmark is the way to go. So there's that. But yeah, and I don't buy the little bottle either because the first time or two I bought, well, I say I'm getting kind of low, but I don't buy the little bitty bottle. I go ahead and I go for the big one because I do use it. This is the 12 ounce. This is like $100, but if you're charging appropriately for what you're doing, it pays itself off. I mean, because you're not screwing up blanks. That's the big thing that I try to avoid. I don't want to mess up blanks. And if I've got a $20 Yeti blank and I'm fixing to mark it and I use something other than this, there's a really good chance that I could screw that up and have to replace it and now I'm out money. This is just like insurance that lets me know it's gonna work. I know what the settings are. It's gonna work. So that's just my opinion. Different strokes for different folks. I have tried other things as well. I've learned that lesson. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. When you start spending more money on tumblers than you would have spent if you'd bought the marking spray, you'll swap the marking spray. So,
well, yeah, I mean, the two things on that for me are, you're right. The galvanizing compound spray is a bit of a, it's a bit of a hazard to you, or anybody else that's going to be dealing with the vapors. And secondly, you got to use like more of a chemical to clean it off. You know, I like not getting, I mean, especially something that's like a cup or a tumbler that someone's going to be drinking out of. I know you can clean them and whatnot, but I like to use things that are water cleanup. It's faster to do, it's easier to do, and I'm just not adding chemicals to things. So if you're using it for glass and just going for the frosted effect, that might be the thing to look at some of the cheaper marking sprays, because you just need it as a binder as opposed to getting that solid black look. But yeah, I was anecdotally, I was using a stainless steel tumbler for coffee this morning, and it had my old Foam Flight logo on it. It's one I did on my original laser probably, I don't know, 8 years ago, and that was back when I had to use a brush on Surmark, because they didn't, I don't know that they had the aerosol back then. Yeah. And that thing is still rock solid, nice. It hasn't chipped, it hasn't, worn off or anything. So I mean, that, you're right. You spend a little bit, get something that works real well. So
yeah, I just, like I said, once I find something that works, that's dependable, I just try to stick with it. I mean, like I said, until you learn how to use it properly, you're probably going to waste a little bit of it, but it is so much better once you get going with it. So, and like I said, it's, other than if you have rough hands, I will tell you the Surmark can actually get down in the cracks of your hands if your hands are bad to crack or chip and stain your hands. So you might want to wear some dishwashing gloves or something. But other than that, the cleanup's easy. And Monport, Ohmtech, X-Tool, like all the major manufacturers of lasers, they make their own spray. Some of them may be cheaper than others. I'm fairly confident it's the same stuff in all of them. But like I said, I found something that worked for me, and that's what I use.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if you look around, Monport, if you dig into some of their Facebook pages, groups, and live streams, they're often giving away cans of that stuff. So if you want to try one, you might be able to go snag a free one from them by checking out some of their social stuff. So it's one of the ones I haven't tried yet. I've used both Surmark and Brilliance, that they've worked pretty well. I do need to test X-Tool and Ohmtech. Maybe get my hands on some Monport and see, but
yeah.
Well, hey Ryan, sorry you're struggling with your PC build, but hopefully it goes well. I'll probably be doing some of that this fall. Two of my boys want new computers. One of them may or may not want to build it. I need to do something different out here. So, but I may cheap out. Well, I shouldn't say cheap out. I might take the lazy route out and just get the core build and add maybe some storage and memory to it.
Yeah. Yeah, Vac Fink says I uses titanium dioxide for black markings on inorganics, and yeah, it works. And I don't know if you know this or not, but if you're doing like signs or whatever, and you want white but you want black text, if you'll use Rust-Oleum 2X, it has a lot of the titanium dioxide in there, and it blacks really well. So, but yeah, like I said, there are other ways, but. And if you can get a straight can of TiO2 or whatever, yeah, but that's the active ingredients in most of these marking sprays is titanium dioxide. So, I mean, it's all the same stuff. It's just the delivery, the mixture, the consistency. There are going to be variables with the different brands. So.
Yep.
Good luck, Ryan. We tried to warn you.
Yeah, Jared, the marking spray on real glass ornaments, it will work, but it won't necessarily make them black. It'll allow it to make it frosted. So it's similar to putting like the tempera paint or as another binder on them, but it sprays on easy and washes off easy is the trick there. So
yeah, Radu's asking about the arcing and the CO2. Yeah, that's in Steve's video he did on the Home Tech recently.
Yep.
I think he walks you through the setup and everything or the fix.
Yeah, it just I didn't go too in depth on it. I kind of just showed the aftermath, but it's just a matter of sliding a bigger silicone tube around it and then injecting a bunch of silicone caulk in there to create a bigger insulation thing. I'd love to. Years ago, I did a tube replacement video. I didn't do that step on there because they had a different high voltage connector, an insulator. But that might be something that maybe I can pull out the OhmTech maker and check that one and show a little bit on re-insulating that one for a tip. It's just something that can happen when you make that high voltage joint on any CO2 laser. This one just happened to, it can be a pin, just a small pin imperfection in the insulator. And if that high voltage wire is close enough to metal or grounded metal, it'll arc to it. And that can do some serious damage. So it's I talk about it a little bit in the video, and maybe I'll, like I say, down the road, if I can get set up for it, I'll see if I can do that on another machine and actually just kind of step through it.
Had enough. I've done several videos over the years using different marking sprays, but Steve you did what? Brilliance versus Surmark, I think, did you?
I've done some individual ones. To do them all together would be ideal. It's just that's
a lot of sprays and a lot of glass.
A lot of sprays and a lot of material. I mean, because you'd want to test it on stainless steel, you'd want to test it on glass. I don't know if there's anything else, but yeah, it would be I think it would be a decent video. It's just expensive and
very labor intensive one too.
Well, and then also the differences between which ones work with a CO2, which ones work with a diode, because some of them, or what power setting of diode. I mean, you could the branches.
You could write a book on that topic.
Yeah. Where do you stop?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's going to be, people will be like, oh, well, yeah, that works great with a diode or with a CO2, but what about my fiber? And then it's just, it's a whack-a-mole situation because there's so many different spider webs coming off of that.
Yep.
And like I said, people will argue with me constantly. I hear it all the time. Oh, that stuff's too expensive. You don't need it. You just need to use this. Okay. I mean, if that works for you, that's fine. That's great. I mean, but as far as my case use, my situation, that's, I choose this route,
So we'll see. I do. Well, even that. Okay. But people ask about brass, they ask about aluminum, and they'll there's just another branch. But yeah, maybe it's something, at least can start with some basics on that. But
yeah. Yeah, Radu, it was a few days ago he put it out. It was just look for his last. I think it was your last video.
Yeah, it's my last video right now. The polar light. It's I don't know, it's probably like 10, 12 minutes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you're getting Adele and the Caveman commercials. Those are back in the days.
Yeah.
Good commercials.
Yeah, Ryan's gonna be wishing he had got Adele. All it takes is one little, because you would think you just throw all those parts in a box and they work well together and play well together, but that's not always the case. I mean, you're going to be overclocking, underclocking, trying to make sure that your RAM's set up for the right frequency for the board, and there's just so many things that can go wrong. And you won't know it until you're trying to use it. And you're like, why does it keep blue screening on me and just like dumping? Oh, that's why, like I said, I'll go pick mine out already put together.
Yeah, I was at the local Best Buy this weekend, or Friday. Had to take one of the kids to the bank to get some things set up for a new job in college, and I was like, "Hey, we're by Best Buy. Let's go look at a couple things." So
yeah. Yes, Bob, I've used, which you don't need Sir Mark with the CO2 unless you're doing metals. If you're doing glass, CO2s do glass just fine, of course, but I've used it on some stainless steel, like straight up stainless steel tumblers, because the thing with Sir Mark is it you can it'll, like, if you heat it up, it's basically like powder coating, and it works with like bare metals.
That's glass straight off of CO2.
Yeah.
And a bad reflection of things. Here, I'll show you guys your camera. There you are. There you guys are.
Yeah. The like I said, the only real need I would see with the CO2 would be for the metals. Like marking metals would work. Miles said he did a quick search on titanium dioxide. Oh my, yeah. It's actually the white. If like white spray paints use it as a pigment, and the Rust-Oleum 2X actually has a higher concentration than a lot of other paints do.
You can also just buy the powder.
Yeah,
your own mix.
Yeah, and you can mix it with you mix it with. I watched a video one time and I was like, that's just too much work.
Yeah, I mean, you can save some money, and you can play around with that for, like the white tile and the glass and the stainless steel. But yeah, it also then comes down to being able to get the right mixture and application and smooth and consistent and
yeah, I just don't, like I said, not my thing. I pick my battles.
Yeah, Norbert and JR. The funny thing was, I was at Micro Center last Monday, as I mentioned, and the salesperson was being very helpful, but they kept asking and trying to help out. And in the back of my mind, I'm sitting here going, I was building computers before you were born. Can you leave me alone? I try to be really polite and everything, but they're on commission there, so they got to make their sales.
Oh.
Yeah, it's isopropyl and make a spray. But yeah, you do want to be careful with it, and that's another reason to get some pre-mixed stuff. So a lot of things that we do can be harmful. I mean, even just like you're talking about CNC, if you're creating that sawdust, I mean, dust collection on any tool, take care of your lungs, man. Yeah. You breathe in some of that stuff, you're going to be hurting. Might not be right away, but down the road.
Yeah, I was in here today making our stove covers. And of course, I've got dust collection and sanding and all that. And it's just, you can't get it all. You're not going to get all of it. So yeah, it's definitely a mess.
Cody, I only had one moment like that, and I was in a bad mood. It was actually at Best Buy. I walked in there, and a guy came up to me and said, "Hi, can I help you?" I said, "I doubt it."
He's turning into a grumpy old man is what it is.
Oh, this is probably like 10 years ago.
Mercy.
But but yeah, there's a lot of fun things to play with. But again, that's where you got to take that mixture of it. Am I playing with to experiment and figure something out for fun, or am I really finding if you're doing it for a business, time is money. And so all the steps to make the mix and apply it and dry it versus a quick spray, you gotta take that into account too. If you've got more time than you got money, then yeah, go for some of these other methods. But there's always a balance there where if you can't keep up with your orders, or you just don't have enough time, you got to get things done faster. Then sometimes spend a little bit of money for the tool, get you going and keeps you moving.
Yeah, it's just like my stove covers. Back in the early days, I used to buy like the 1x6s, and I would take my biscuit joiner and I would square them up on the table saw, take a biscuit joiner, join them all, glue them up, clamp them, let them sit overnight, and then the next day I would come in here and I would put, screw them together. Yeah. Then I started getting, like 5 a week ordered, and it's like, okay, there's no way I'm doing this for 5 a week. And so now I buy panels already made and cut out that step. It costs me a little bit more money, but at the end of the day, like today, these covers, like those 6 covers right there, and those 3 bamboo cutting boards I did today, and that's going to generate me about $700 worth of revenue. And I still got to stain and finish them and put the handles and stuff on them, but the bulk of the work is done today. I'll have those done, one afternoon this week. And so, if I was still trying to do, biscuits and stuff like that and put those things together, there's no way I could finish them that fast. So
Melissa's asking which specific video. You've got like 3 of them on the X-Tool S1 with a jig.
Mm-hmm.
You got the making a jig, then the jig system, it got better, and then the system update. Are all 3 relevant, or is the second one the starting point?
The original one, I would just look at the original one. That shows the basic operation of it. There was some updates that I made. I think that was when I found out that the UK model of the S1 is different than the US model. And yeah, but the original video is going to be the one that I would recommend. You can just go to the Etsy shop, and there's some links there that shows you. Let me copy that. Just go check this out. There's some video links in the description on it. That is that's the system, the jig thing. But there's some videos in the description down there that kind of shows you what it does, how it works. And so if you go down into the very bottom of that one in the description, there's a link to the one that kind of gives you the rundown on how to use it. It's not overly complicated. Sometimes people do overcomplicate it. I had a guy last week that was like, he was telling me it didn't work, this, that, and the other, and then he realized that he had skipped a step. So it wasn't that it didn't work. He had skipped a step. There's some very critical steps that you need to take, and if you cut the pieces before you permanently affix them to the machine, they're not going to be in the same spot. So you have to affix it, then cut. So yeah, but yeah, it can be a little bit confusing sometimes for folks.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
You need to respond to this one, because I was thinking it too.
Uses his dog biscuit to help make stove covers. No, the biscuits. You know what I'm talking about.
I know.
I don't have a domino machine. I have a biscuit joiner, and it is who makes it? It's green. What was that?
Ryobi.
Yeah, Ryobi. Yeah. So I don't have a domino machine from Festool, unlike some people.
What?
Nor do I have a soft stop. I got a DeWalt. That's how we live it around here.
Yep. That's the one I think you were going to ask or going to bring up.
Yeah. Can an hour laser be used to engrave tumblers? Would it be any better? Consistency over a diode for tumblers. The problem with an IR is this kind of the same problem with a blue laser. Blue lasers, as well as the IR, is going to mark the metal a lot easier. And a lot of times you don't necessarily want to mark the metal. If you're doing like plain tumblers and metal marking is what you want, then that would probably be a good thing. But if you're doing powder coated tumblers and you're just removing the powder coating, then you kind of want the machine that's a little more difficult to mark the metal with, because you don't have to worry about accidentally doing it as much. I mean, yes, you still can, but you have to screw up pretty bad with, say, a CO2, as opposed to if you take a blue laser and you run slow enough with enough heat, you can brass stainless steel and make it look kind of gold, like really easy. You can even get it all the way up to like a dark gray, almost black, without any marking spray, just using a blue laser. Now, the downside to that is a lot of times when you're trying to do that, you end up going too hot and cause it to buckle or recess into the tumbler or whatever, because you're heating that material up, and it's going to cause it to twist or move. So it depends on the effect you're going for. If you're doing a plain tumbler and you want it to be marked and it's a non-powder coated tumbler, then yeah, IR, whether it be IR or blue might actually be a better option for you. But if you're doing powder coated tumblers, personally, the blue would be like, if I was picking to do those, it would either be the blue laser or a CO2. I would stay away from. I mean, I know people that do them with a fiber, and they do good job. But every time I've tried to do it, I end up with the fiber lasers. I end up marking the darn metal. I can't find that balance, like not consistently. I mean, if I was doing 300 of them and I sat there and burnt through a couple of them, maybe I could. But I haven't had as good a luck with a fiber as I have with a blue laser. But it could just be that I got comfortable and got, accustomed to using the blues. What's your thoughts? You do a whole lot of tumblers with fiber?
I mean, the same thing, but also if you're talking about like the IR lasers, they have such a fine spot size that your time to cover the same area is going to be almost double. That was something that I found in my F1 video comparing slate tiles. While I got a really nice, brilliant contrast effect on the IR versus the blue diode, the time to get the same coverage was almost double. So there's also that to take into consideration, is that you have a finer spot size that's going to do the same coverage is going to take more time. So
yeah, but that would be, like I said, I've played around with fibers. I wouldn't, and I've played around with the IRs, like the F1 and the F1 and the S1. But yeah, they wouldn't. Those would definitely take a long time to do. So far, my the CO2 setup I've got now is it's the best tumbler setup I've had. Other than I will say, my buddy Tim, that Thunderbolt with that Roto Boss is pretty sick, because that machine goes so fast.
Yeah.
And his Roto Boss has got magnets on it, so it sticks to the honeycomb. So you basically, like, once you square it with the honeycomb bed, and those magnets are strong enough that it holds it in place. But I did actually, we wound up using a piece of, I think it was plastic or whatever, and made a panel for it where you could align it. And then I just, once you get it in there, I use the red pointer laser just to make sure that it is square with everything, and then send it. And it done a really good job, and never had any problem with it moving. So that would be a good machine for doing tumblers. But I'm still interested in this new one laser thing that they've got, that's a vertical gantry style instead of the horizontal. I want to see that thing in person.
Alabama Digger mentions he bought the first laser off Temu 2 weeks ago. S1 6-watt, paid for it in 3 days, selling a few sets of slate coasters. Yeah, I mean, that one, we both have looked at that one, and for just an engraving machine, it does a really nice job.
Bare
at
bones.
that detail, and it's really inexpensive. So I'm glad you got off to the start and were able to you can get some sales out of it. So, but cheapest hobby ever depends on if you stick with that laser or keep upgrading.
You can spend as much money as you want to spend eventually.
You can. I mean, even just materials. You know, you get a laser, and all of a sudden you're walking through Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and you're going,
Yeah, I wonder what I can do with that. Wonder if I can do with that. But yeah.
I was just there today at Michael's. So Aaron's asking, will a UV laser give a white color engraving on silicone such as Apple Watch bands? It's more of a gray. Let me see. I actually have some recent tests. Let me see if I can find them really quick. So like on a whiter band, it looks darker. I mean, because it's gray. On a darker band, it looks whiter because it's gray, but it's kind of the same tone that I've found. And then if you play with the settings, you actually start digging into it. I don't know that you actually, I haven't messed with all the settings, but it's kind of, you get tones of gray, and then it starts cutting through. Where are they? But yeah, I've been doing some playing with silicone on the UV laser just to see what it can do. Just been sidetracked by a couple of things before I can really put out some definitive content on it. Man, I take a lot of pictures and video.
Yeah. Tim saying I use the F1IR all the time on tumblers. Does a good job cleaning it up after the diode pass too. Yeah, I typically don't do but one pass on tumblers, and whether it's a diode, CO2, or what, I like to get it done with the first pass. And like I said, I've done a lot of them with diodes, and I've had really good luck. But my problem was up until recently that X-Tool S1 was my tumbler machine. Like that was what I did all my tumblers on, and that was almost the only thing I ever used it on because I've got the chuck set in there and it's set up to go. But I've got some stuff coming, and I'm looking at doing some stuff differently after retirement, and I needed some floor space. And so I'm looking at trying to relocate the S1. And in order to do that, I had to have a machine that I liked as well or better for doing tumblers. And I've been wanting to get a CO2 that would do tumblers. And so tried the P2, was not happy with, the way it worked as far as doing the tumblers. It'll do them, but I wasn't happy with the way it worked. It didn't flow as well as I like for it to flow when I'm trying to do 50 tumblers. I don't like having to fidget with lining everything up between every tumbler. So I got the OhmTech out and did some retrofitting and made some brackets, and I've got me a tumbler making machine now. So Bob Weir says, I have the Talon Pro, and yes, it's great. Yeah, that's, like I said, eventually I hope to get me a bigger CO2 machine with like one of the really nice rotaries, but that's a dream, guys. Right now I'm gonna have to pay for health insurance, so we'll get that when we get to it.
Oh, darn it, where is that?
Yep. Alabama Digger says, I just bought the Asmer P2 33 watt. Got it on a steel deal from Team $450 shipped. That's not a bad deal for the P2. That's a good machine. I got one hanging right there, 33 watt. If you're coming from that 6 watt to that 33 watt, you're definitely gonna notice a difference. Bob, I've actually sent Rotoboss 2 emails to just asking them if they'd be willing to work with me on it. Not necessarily give me one, but work with me on it. Like give me maybe like a vendor price or something to get one. And hadn't had any responses on either emails that I've sent. So I pretty much quit on that. I don't like asking for things. But that was one of the things that I was going to do. I'd ask them, about getting it with the correct plug. I think I actually asked for the plug for the OhmTech because that was my plan, was to use the OhmTech with it. But I never got a response back. So I just wound up figuring out how to make it work using my trusty atom stack chuck. And it works great.
Oh,
Norbert. No, I mean, my business address is my business is technically in my backyard, so my address is my address. A lot of folks use PO boxes and all that. I just don't. I don't see the need. The last thing I need to do is be running to a PO box every day or trying to have stuff shipped to a PO box. Could you see them trying to put that in a PO box?
you get a note saying "Come get it" or we'll send it back.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't fool with that. Everybody in this county knows where I live anyway.
All right, let me see if I can on that silicone thing.
Yeah, Bob. Like I said, I don't know. I haven't. Like I said, it's not something I'm pressing for now. I've got me a working. Setup for the moment. So we'll see.
So this is this is kind of a grayish whitish silicone that I was doing some testing on. I bought one of those big like epoxy mats, fairly cheap. And I was playing around a little bit with different speeds. Kind of kept the frequency about the same on this test and whatnot. But yeah, it's kind of a lot of consistent color. So I'm going to see if maybe some frequency changes might affect that a little bit, but it's pretty much just a gray look that you get on it. And then I thought I had one of a couple of watch bands. I will warn you though on watch bands. So on this one, here I gotta stop sharing.
It's like you are in a tiny little screen down there right now, sir.
On this one, which it's not going to focus on, I actually did. You can kind of see the bumps in there. That was gray, but over time, it's kind of just worn out into barely being visible on there.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've been seeing with a lot of the watch bands and stuff like that. The nylon silicone is it'll have like a faint graying to it, but then over time it goes away. Now it can put some cool textures, like you can do textures with it, and
right.
The texture stay, but the colors, I haven't had any luck getting color to stay.
So let me bring this back here. So this upper right one, where I slowed it down, it's actually got a fair amount of depth to it, and so that's where you would have like maybe a more permanent marking to it because it is in deep versus kind of the marking that the oils whatnot over time are going to just kind of blend it out. So
yeah.
So anyway, like I say, I've been doing some testing on that, but I want to test more because I haven't. There's it's more than just speed and power on these.
Yeah. Yeah, you got
and I want to be able to kind of address some of that and show it, but yeah, it can make some really nice contrast markings on here, but like I say, on this watch band, it's kind of faded over time.
Yeah. Well, Bob, holler at me one day. Like I said, I'm getting down to the short end of the work week now. I'm actually off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the next 52 days, and then I'm going to be off every day.
Bill's asking thoughts on the Sculpt Fun iCube Ultra. Well, I will let you know in maybe a week. I actually have one. I just got it unboxed and I've run a couple tests with it, but I've been focusing on the Ohmtech Polar Light. But yeah, that's one of the next ones on the block after I get another. I got some project stuff I'm working through, but it's interesting. I have both the, what is it? It's a 12 watt blue and then a 1.5 or a 2 watt IR module. They're separate modules. You got to swap them out. They did not send, it's just the base unit outside of that. They did not send the camera option or the air assist option. So it's a nice little box. It's well protected as far as something that's going to be portable and such, but they have a little filter thing in the back, but you're really going to need it's kind of like a small HEPA filter with some loose charcoal in it. It's not going to take away the smoke. You're going to want to still vent it if you're indoors. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, hopefully I can kind of get through some initial testing on that one this week and have something out by next weekend for you on that.
Mike's asking, in your opinion, what's the best size and power CO2 laser you would recommend? It depends, as usual. How much room you got? How big a work area do you need?
Yeah, a little bit of it depends on what you're doing with it. But if you're kind of stepping up from a diode and in that range, your 50 to 60 watt CO2 is going to be fairly comparable in the types of projects you're going to do with that. You're going to be cutting 1/8" plywood all day. You'll be able to cut 1/4" outside of maybe some really dense ones. Then from that standpoint, then it's kind of your working area and such. As I mentioned earlier, if you've got the budget and the space, you rarely will complain about going bigger in working area. But if you're going too big in power and you want to do more detailed engravings, you're going to be disappointed because they have a wider beam. They're going to be a little more aggressive. Great for cutting, but if you're doing just like vector logos, you're probably okay. But if you're trying to do any sort of like photo engravings, then the more power you get, the more detail you lose. The nice thing with CO2 lasers is you can swap out the lenses. So a shorter focal distance usually has a finer focus spot, but it's in focus for a finer amount of point. The longer the lens, the kind of the more stretched out that hourglass is, the more cutting ability it has, but that focus spot gets wider. So it's a little bit of trade-off there. But yeah, I look at anything in that probably 60-ish watt range as kind of a good average for your benchtop hobbyist kind of CO2, unless you're looking something bigger and needing to cut thick stuff.
Yeah. Well, I seen just now where he commented down below for tumblers, but
well then yeah, check out Clack's polar setup with his rotary, and
it's working pretty good so far.
I need to compare some notes.
Thunderbolt is awesome.
Well, the Thunderbolt, but if you're looking for a budget option and doing tumblers, I'll be curious. I need to take a look at your stuff and how this polar light might work, because it's got an opening down there and the same similar plug, so you could probably drop in that, and for a $1,800 laser and a couple $100 rotary, might have similar results to what you're getting there.
Yeah, like I said, for this machine, I'm gonna be honest with you, I am thoroughly impressed with the quality of the engrave, because you know how it is with diodes. A lot of times you get those, it looks like scratches in the metal from where it's actually the beams interacting with the metal and kind of cutting it just a little bit, like putting those scratches on there. And you can, especially if you take a picture of the cup and zoom in, you can see those. But the ones that I did with that CO2, it is slick. It looks like you chemically removed the powder coat. Like it is, there's no distortion, no scratches, no nothing. Even zooming in really tight with your phone or whatever, you can't see any marks on the stainless. Like I said, it looks like it just vanished. Like there's no indicators to what happened to it. So I really like the way that looks.
Yeah, we kind of were just covering it a little bit. Melissa's asking, what CO2 machine would you recommend to someone who has a S140 watt, 2 watt, but never used a CO2? Anyone coming from XCS, Xtool, and if you're probably using XCS from your earlier questions, that's going to be part of the equation. Is if you're really comfortable with that and you want to stick with that, then looking at the X-Tool P2S is going to be kind of one of your primary things to consider. It's going to be a little more expensive than some of the others that are out there, such as the Polar Plus that Clack's been working with, and the Polar Light I've got here. And then there are cheaper options like the Reno series from Monport and such. But you're going to be also needing to pick up Lightburn. You're going to need to learn Lightburn then, which isn't terrible. A lot of people make that transition and really like it afterwards. But it's something to consider in your process of evaluating lasers. The P2, outside of, like Clack would tell you, it's not something he ever wants to run tumblers on just because of the alignment headaches.
Oh, it's not simple.
But as far as working with other materials, working with all flavors of acrylic, playing around with some glass a little bit easier, things like that, it does really well. Their dual camera system is probably one of the best for, you know, using the camera for alignment. So it's something to look at, but it is going to be more expensive than, say, the Polar Light that I just looked at and such.
Yeah, the camera on the X-Tool P2 is by far the most accurate camera setup I've ever used. But if you're wanting it for tumblers, you're better off stick with your S1. I'm just going to be honest with you, than the P2, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Somebody else's opinion may differ. But I could not get good results with the P2, because every time you do a tumbler and you put another one in there, the RA2 moves around, and you have to have the highest point of the tumbler underneath the little red dot that comes in from an angle on the P2 in order for it to set the height and everything correctly. There was just a lot to it, and I loved my S1 for doing tumblers, but the P2 I just never could. I tried. I gave it 2 tries, and I just could not make it work like I wanted it to. And so that's when I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna make this Polar work, and it did. So very happy with that. I was trying to find that picture that I did of that cup. I thought I had transferred it to my computer, but apparently I did not. But yeah, it's a different world. It's a different world. If Dave says I have the F1 Ultra and the P2S, guess what I do tumblers on? Me personally, given those 2 choices, I would be doing them on the Ultra. The Ultra does a good job on tumblers, especially if you index or create a jig for that F1 Ultra to hold that RA2. It actually does a good job. So if it were me, that's what I would be using, would be the F2 Ultra or the F1 Ultra, personally. Because like I said, I can't stand the P2 to do them. I don't have the P2S. I have the P2. But I've tried doing tumblers on it, and it makes me say bad words. Like, it seriously did. I was so mad. I was about ready to just pick the machine up and throw it out the door. And I was like, you know what? I'm not fixing to tear up this machine. I'm just going to walk away from it and then think about it. And yeah, so I came back, and instead of throwing it out the door, I just moved it and got the OMTech back over here. And that's when I was like, I'm fixing to make this work somehow. And so I went around and was trying to figure out exactly how to hook it up. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've got a cable right here. So yeah, Dave says, yes, I've also got the Blackwell plate to attach to RA2. Yeah, if you could secure that thing on there where it doesn't move. I mean, the only thing that would make it better would be if it was a CO2 galvo. Because I do like the Ultra when it comes to tumblers and chuck rotary work, assuming that, you know, the work area is sufficient.
Yeah. So Melissa clarified that she's looking to maybe try something different from X-Tool and has bought Lightburn. Yeah, I would check out the Polar videos. Clack's got the Polar Plus. I've got the Polar Light that I just launched. Those are pretty decent. I mean, everything kind of I mean, I had a couple hiccups on there, like with the arcing powers, the high voltage line, but that shouldn't be normal. It's just something to watch out for on any CO2 laser. So maybe check out those two. They're pretty decent. It's worked pretty well with Lightburn.
Yeah.
And they're not, they're kind of all in one units as well.
Yeah, like I said, it's still early yet, but I did probably 10 or 12 tumblers. I did one. Klein was here last night. He come by and he's like, I got to see this thing work, because he likes doing tumblers too. So let me grab this baby blue tumbler that I use the same settings on the other one. Let me grab it, show you what it looks like. Now I didn't set it up completely. I just did the burn. But let me grab this thing. Because if you've ever used a blue laser on tumblers, the worst color possible is blue. So there, right there, this little logo right here. Now this is a test cup, so it's slapped full of different. You can't even tell that it was ever powder coated. And that's the same settings that I used on every other tumbler. I didn't have to tweak the settings. I didn't have to do nothing to it. Now I did forget to change the diameter of the tumbler, so it's a little skewed, not bad. But yeah, they don't have, because like on a diode, if you're not careful, I don't know how well you can be able to see them right there. You get this little brassy look, and you can also get like scratches. And so it's amazing that I can just throw any tumbler I want to up there and get that nice shiny look without having to worry about the settings. And it's awesome. It is cool. So yeah, CO2 is definitely leaps and bounds when it comes to doing coated tumblers. But I've also made a whole bunch of money using blue diodes doing them, so it's not required. It's just a lot less headache. A lot less testing involved. Oh, had to break out my ladder.
All right. Well, we're like almost a half hour over.
Yeah, we're running late, dude. You didn't got me started. We done got what the questions just kept coming.
Keeping everybody up past our bedtime.
Yeah, I gotta go to work tomorrow. Oh, yeah, Gray. I try not to let things aggravate me that much. So, yeah. So when I started getting aggravated with it, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm walking away. So. And Dave said he also uses the Samcraft jigs on the F1 Ultra and sets up are really easy. Yeah, I think Steve's got some of those. I've got all my little wooden ones that I've made and stuff like that. So that's mostly all I use.
Yeah, he provides nice files with those. You just got to do some minor alignment to your laser. I actually was using one of the com marker ones in my F1 because I didn't have the same one, and it fit in well, and I just made some minor adjustments to that on the video I was working on this weekend. That'll hopefully be out in a couple days. But he does make some nice jigs for a variety of things. If you want something plug and play, and you want to not have to think too much about it. It's about the number of years I've got left.
Yeah, Bob was talking about 52 days. That's right. But yeah, so hopefully this coming up week, hopefully the remainder of those boxes over there will show up, the other half of that machine. I've got the assembly instructions, and I've been kind of going through them, familiarizing myself with the process before I actually do it. There's probably going to need to be there's probably going to be a little effort in assembling it from what I'm seeing. It's going to be a bunch of pieces. Because it's so big, the pieces have to be put together. There's not going to be any pre-assembled parts, I don't think. I'm hoping for maybe some of the, lines to be already ran through the drag chains and all that, but we'll see.
Perimeter alert.
Yeah. It's always nice when some of that wiring's done.
Yeah, there's my daughter coming home, but yeah, hopefully it won't. Hopefully it won't be anything too major. So we're looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm gonna have it over here. It will be located on my little tool table over there. I'm just gonna have to remove the miter saw, take the fence off of the table saw, lower the blade, lower the router down into the table a little bit, and I'll be able to use that as a temporary place for this machine to be sitting, because that table is about, it's 4 foot wide, right at 4 foot wide, but it's I think, I don't even know how long I made the thing. Hang on, I built it. 70 inches. So if you count using the table saw itself as a table, it's 70 inches long. And 48 and a half wide. So you're looking at a good foundation for a table to hold a 4 foot by 4 foot laser. So we'll see how it goes.
I see a couple questions before we bounce out. We'll try to hit them quick, but Shadow is asking, I'm still rocking the original D1 20-watt diode laser, but I'm eyeing an Optech 60 to 100 watt. Do you guys think I should be looking at something else or go for it? Depends on, I guess they have a lot of options there. One of them that Clack and I have been actually talking about amongst ourselves a little bit, that if we were to upscale some of our production and such, their Pronto, their Pronto 40 is like a 90 watt, and it has like a 24 by 35. I think it's like 1 inch under my 36 inch working area. We're both kind of eyeing that one. We've both worked with Ohmtech on a couple of machines now, I think. And they've been pretty decent so far, and they do have something of a US presence. I think most of their tech support still email over to more of the Central Asia time, but I'm there for a budget line and not paying the Thunder or higher prices. Yeah. Now, if you've got the budget, you might want to look at Thunder. They've got some really decent options as well. A little more US presence, but you're going to pay a little bit more for theirs over the Ohmtech. So yeah, my experience so far with them, and they've been around for a while, is definitely something I would seriously consider as an option. I've been talking with some people about some possible work, and I may actually have to fork over some money to get a larger machine again. So they are one of the ones I'm considering, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, and same here. Matter of fact, I shot an email out to them about that Pronto. What was it? The Pronto 40 that me and you were talking about. I sent them an email and was like, "Hey, I was just curious. What are your thoughts on this? As far as give me a little bit better price or something like that in exchange for me using it here in the shop, because just like you, when I retire, I love my X40 Max. It serves me well. It does a good job. It did all these stove covers today and everything. If I could get a CO2 machine that was big enough to do them in, do the 30-something inch wide, signs for my party planner and everybody, and do tumblers and batch jobs and just have it be a multi-purpose machine, I'd be willing to give up a little bit of space in the shop to be able to do that. And as I'm moving into a full-time role out here, I'm looking at what can I do to streamline the process. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But yeah, I like the Thunder machines, and if budget wasn't an issue, of course, I think they make a great machine because it has the 2-stage air assist, so to speak, where you have a low power and a high power that you can set. There are some things about the Thunder machines that I like, but those are perks. Those aren't required. I'd stay away from anything that says smart CO2 laser. I would avoid it at this juncture from my experience with some of the other ones. The smart features aren't all they're cracked up to be. I'm a little afraid of this big ASMR machine right here because they're advertising smart features. I don't like to hear that. I want dumb lasers. Dumb means less things to go wrong, in my opinion. when it comes to lasers. Bob said he's got OMTech and Thunder. Both have been great machines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're very close as far as a lot of the technology and stuff that's out there. Thunder, they're of course their RF machines are awesome, but OMTech also sells RF capable machines as well, but they're a lot bigger and just a lot pricier as well. So they have like their entry, mid, and high level machines with OMTech, and I consider myself to be in the mid range. I ain't quite in the high range yet.
The other question I thought would hit on Mike's bringing up a question on opportunity to get a Thunderbolt with a Rotoboss and a 30-watt. It's used but still has a year warranty left, and was told it's the same as a 60-watt. I'm assuming CO2. It's hard to compare them apples to apples. RF tubes can fire faster, and so you can get faster engraving speeds, but pure cutting quality or power is kind of a hard comparison to make. So yeah, typically a 30-watt RF tube is not, it's going to cut faster and possibly deeper than a CO2, but it's not necessarily linear, like always going to double. So
I think it would be comparable, close.
It's going to be close, but there are going to be some other differences. I think the RF tube, you're probably, you know how the diodes are darker than the CO2. The RF can sometimes also be lighter than a CO2.
Yeah, it's going to be very clean.
There's a lot of trade-offs there. It's almost getting closer to like that UV style of cut and whatnot. So it just kind of depends on what your case uses, whether it's actually going to be better or not. But yeah, in a lot of ways you can compare it to maybe not double, but at least like 150 to 175% better than equivalent CO2 as far as just raw cutting power.
Yeah, because even though it's got less power, the dot size is significantly smaller, and therefore it's kind of like the whole needle versus a 16-penny nail approach. I mean, the bigger the spot, the power is going to be distributed over a larger area if you have a smaller dot size. So if you have 30 watts, you know, even though it's half the wattage, but the dot size is like a tenth as big, then there's going to be a bit of a trade-off there, because it is a smaller dot. You may actually have better cutting ability than you would if it was, you know, the two were equal wattage with the same size dot. It was going to be different. So yeah, the one that I run up at Tim's, it cuts really nice. Like, especially in acrylic, it cuts really good. So I don't think cutting would be a big issue, but like Steve said, I mean, if you're buying it strictly for cutting, you'd probably be better with the tube machine. But if you're wanting to do really clear engraving and some cutting as well, I think the Thunderbolt is a good machine, as long as you're good with that 12 by 20 work area or thereabouts, because it's the one that Tim has. That's the one downside that I see with that machine, is if he has anything that's any bigger, the way it's built, even if the work area is big enough for the image, if the piece is bigger than that little compartment inside that machine, it won't fit. So like if you have a 22-inch piece of material, the way the machine's got that tub in there, it won't set in there. So there's trade-offs when it comes to that too. Like the Atom Stack Hurricane, you can actually put like a 30-inch wide piece of material in it, because the chassis is kind of open and it affords you extra room to move the material. Whereas some of the other machines, it's kind of like putting it in a shoebox. You have no extra. You have 12 by 20. That's it. So, but I like the Thunderbolt. I would love to have one. I've come really close, and Steve could testify to this. I've come really close to driving a couple of hours and picking up one that I saw on Marketplace, because I've been seeing a few of them like in Alabama that were within 2-hour drive of me. And they were some pretty decent deals, because like I said, I like it. So I don't think if you can get a good deal on it, I don't think you would go wrong with it, as long as the work area is good enough for you.
Yeah, I'm just lucky that none of those deals have been up here.
Yeah, hey, that last one, man, it was tough because that lady had it. I mean, it looked pristine, like the honeycomb didn't even need cleaning. Like she hadn't had it very long at all. And I was very tempted, but I was just, trying to hang on to my Benjamins because I don't got a whole lot of them. So I was trying to keep my money in my account, and save it for something else. But
It's all those Jacksons you got.
do I? But yeah.
All right. I mean,
yeah, we're 2 hours.
We're getting closer to 3 hours at this point.
Jeez. Guys, y'all going to keep us up too late. Y'all know we got curfews. But anyway, good night. Enjoyed it. It was fun. The questions kept coming. It made time kind of fly. So
yeah,
that was good.
nice when that happens. So,
but anything else you'd like to close up with, Steve?
No, appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Appreciate you checking out the videos, commenting, and all that such. More to come. Yeah, this is number 140. So
yeah,
10 more, you'll be retired, and we'll hit 150. And
yeah, I'm looking forward to October's lives because I'll be able to update you guys with how it's going with retirement. But until then, I got to work tomorrow. So.
All right. Well, we will see you all next week.
Good night.